Okay, I think we're live. Okay, so this is Ego-Utilitarianism. I'm here with Mike Hugman. I'm here with Tenuous Theories,
Hey yo.
Okay.
and a guy called Adam, and we're gonna have a discussion slash debate first about general philosophy and morality, and then we're gonna talk about some of the objections that Tenuous has, particularly against the classical school of the neoclassical and classical school of economics. Okay, so I wanted to proceed first by establishing terms that we're allowed to use and how we're going to proceed, right? So as far as the axioms and definitions are concerned, we're going to proceed on a democratic basis. Since apparently we have two on each side, I think it's fair. I don't know what happens when there's going to be a tie.
Flip a coin, I guess.
But it's going to be hard to get a tie because we're always picking the best alternative, not the perfect alternative, but just the best one we have at hand. Okay, so it's going to be hard to get a tie. It should be hard to get a tie. I mean, there's going to
So
be
before we move to the next thing, we all have to agree, or like it has to be a majority vote on what we concluded from that first thing.
yeah, it's going to be direct democracy at this point with equal weighting for every vote,
Okay.
uniformly distributed.
Okay, there's already a point on your paper I don't agree with.
Yeah. Wait, which one? Oh, the art. Wait. No,
No, at the very bottom, emotion is vestigial.
Oh god, I think it's gonna be like 3 against 1 on that one.
And I'm gonna win on that.
So what happens if we don't agree?
No, this is just a point of debate. This
Okay.
is not an axiom. I'm gonna.
What is on this paper?
It's just a rough outline. I was just like brainstorming while I was listening to you guys talk on your chats.
Okay.
Man, vestigial art and productivity. Hey, don't no cheating. Don't look at my art. I want to ambush you guys. Okay, so anyways, the role of definition. You guys. Okay, so first off, I think the first discipline we should adopt is mathematics. Right. It underlies every other scientific discipline. Right. So every term in mathematics, even though some terms might, because there's several branches of math, they might cross conflict, but you can differentiate by telling which branch you're using. So the terms and axioms and theorems of mathematics are all valid, and you can refer to those. Also, roughly with science, with physics first, and then maybe other life sciences or chemistry, and chemistry then maybe biology, in that order. And then I don't know, psychologies. I don't know about that, but I'm not opposed to adopting some of their terms because it becomes less well defined as we go further down this hierarchy. And then actually I put economics somewhere pretty high up there, probably after physics. They're somewhat ambiguous, but given that the subject matter is so soft, I think we can give it some leeway. So young and so soft. Shut up, Adam. Given that the subject matter is so young and so soft, I think we can give it some leeway for being as ambiguous it is, because it is just an evolution of morality of
Okay.
deontology.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I think you shouldn't be like this concerned with establishing foundations, because I'm pretty sure we know what we agree on and we know what we don't agree on, and anything we don't know we'll find out. Like you say, let's agree on math, but
Hmm.
I mean, what does that even mean? Like, there's things math doesn't even agree on. There's things that there's incompletenesses, right?
Those are only. Well, we can agree to this. Again, we're always choosing the best options, but math does agree on axioms, right? It cannot find a perfect set of axioms, but they always choose the best set, right? You can agree with that, right?
Well, what do
They
you
don't.
mean the best set? Because aren't there different kinds of mathematics? There's like Euclidean, non-Euclidean, depending on which axioms you use.
Yeah.
Sure, but so it's conditional upon so every theorem set that follows a set of axioms only applies to the set of axioms adopted. So they should be mutually exclusive as far as non-Euclidean and Euclidean. You can see it in just the terms itself. They're
No, but
complements
even
of each other.
like even Euclidean math has paradoxes in it, and just like
Again, you're never going to find a set of perfect axioms. But what you do
yeah,
is you
but then
choose the best.
why try to establish like a perfect foundation to have this?
I'm not making the claim that it's the perfect. I'm making a claim it's the best we have.
All right.
Isn't that rational?
Okay.
So here's the problem, and this is addressing your economic concerns. You can criticize a set of axioms or theorems all you want, but until you can come up with a more consistent set that better explains reality, you must by default adopt the best alternative. And so it applies to all your economic criticism. So when you bring up later on when you bring up SMD theory, you got to make sure that you have something to replace it.
No, see that doesn't.
Whatever I criticize.
That's not how that works.
Isn't it?
No, I mean
unless you can purely disprove it, like
you can recognize a paradox without having like an immediate solution loaded up.
But okay, but there must be a default because you're a rational actor. Nature forces you to keep acting, right? You would agree with that axiom, right? You keep acting, and you must.
Yeah, but like how long? But how long is that going to take? Like it could take years to develop a proper theory of economics. It could take decades. It might not happen in my lifetime. And I'm not an economist. Like we're not doing research here.
Okay.
Foundations.
So first you adopt the truth, and then you adopt strategy towards it, right? So any short-term goal comes after the foundation, right?
What?
You must identify your objective first before you set your strategy, both short and long, medium run and long term, right?
I don't exactly know what that means.
Know where you're going first before you set a short-term objective.
But people don't. We don't know where we're going first. We have
That's
like
the problem. That's what we're trying to establish here.
This is like the whole thing is you can't perfectly establish a goal.
Okay, I'm gonna invoke the democracy thing here. Everybody else, don't you think you have to identify the objective, especially if it's primary first, before setting any
I think we
means toward it.
Talked about this a bit last night, but I think that like in terms of a primary objective, I don't think that everyone can agree on a primary objective. I think that people have different objectives, and like even within themselves, they're not entirely consistent. Like they can have multiple parts of them, different drives that are probably inconsistent, and like I don't think that they'll ever necessarily be.
Wait, hold on, can I just interrupt? Okay, there's an echo anytime anyone speaks.
And it's only when you speak, I think.
Me?
When Tenuous speaks.
No, there was an echo when you were speaking, Mike. It's because Brian has his mic open.
Oh yeah, is there any way like you can use
I'm gonna go to headphones. I'm not sure if it's gonna fix it. Hopefully I don't have to restart it.
It'll probably fix it if you use headphones.
Do you see my soundbar like going up with the echo? Okay. How about now? Fixed? Better? Or just a little better?
Try talking Tenuous.
Hello.
Okay.
Ryan is a fool. He's a fool. Is there no echo?
No, it seems better.
No, I don't think so. I think, I mean, it's probably too late now. But like the way debate works formally is you like agree on a motion, and then there are two sides to the motion. And I'm not saying we should be like, parliamentary debate or whatever, but at least that element would have been helpful here.
Yeah, you see, the problem is Brian's very stubborn, and what happens every time that I have is I just I don't have the energy to just contest every point he's making, so I just say, all right, let's go.
Why we have a democracy now?
We slowly go down the rabbit hole and enter crazy territory, and then I'm like, this is bullshit, Brian.
That's why we have two other people there. But what's irrational about setting the? Okay, let's talk about objectives. Okay.
What's irrational here is that everything you say, there's a hidden meaning behind everything you're saying.
An ulterior motive, you mean?
Yes, there are emotional axioms that you're concealing behind all of these definitions.
If there is any, which I doubt, it's subconscious.
No, it's not. Well, it's not subconscious. It's only subconscious because like you're either not self-aware or you're lying explicitly.
Yeah, that can be a
But
possibility too.
because of this, I have to.
Okay,
end up
instead of
topic.
focusing on me and criticizing, can we just can I propose the proposition that we vote upon right now? Now that can we? I propose that we explore the issue of objectives, what their roles are. If there is a primary objectives, if there's a unique primary objective, if you can have multiple primary objectives, and what other objectives have in relation to any primary objectives if they exist. Can we discuss that?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I don't think that there's necessarily one primary objective that all humanity has.
Of course, and I'm not making that claim. Well, actually, I do make that. So you're talking about subjective. You're talking about. Sorry, I'm just using a term that I didn't define. That's why I sighed. You're talking about preferences rather than. Well, I'm referring to. Oh, shit. I hate to use the word objectives.
Right.
I'm referring to something imposed. Is there an objective that's imposed upon you by nature?
No, I don't think so.
Really? Okay. I propose that evolution, the existence, is imposed upon you at every moment.
I mean, I would say that like evolution doesn't really have, a purpose per se. Like it's a pattern. It's just an unfolding of a pattern, really.
Yeah.
Like,
let's call it a program, right?
It has no teleology. There's no purpose behind it, and we don't. And even if we can ascribe a purpose to it, so that it makes sense to us, like the purpose of maximizing reproductive potential or whatever, even if we ascribe that, that's just a useful fiction for us to understand the pattern that's going on. The pattern really has no necessary meaning for our subjective existence, our inner experience. Like that doesn't necessarily matter at all to what we're trying to do as humans.
Are you conflating? Okay? I think you're conflating action and purpose, right? You're the one, and I think someone accused me of anthropomorphizing evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Someone did. I don't know who, but I think it's Tenuous maybe in a
No,
comment.
it wasn't me. I mean,
okay, someone else. Okay,
like,
but
honestly, I actually agree on this whole purpose thing.
with who, Mike?
I agree that you can think of it as like praxeological, like there's a purpose, but I
hate that word.
I think you're being dishonest when you're analyzing what the purpose is.
We'll see, right? Well, let's progress.
No, I already see. I don't think you'll see.
I don't think the rest of the people see, and if there is, I think our panelists are smart enough to see it. Right? I have faith that if there is some ulterior motive, I'm trying to think, and if the way you're using ulterior motive, are you sure you don't have the same ulterior motive?
Use that word. You use that word.
Yeah, they're not defined. So let's.
I said there's a hidden emotional axiom. I never said it was ulterior.
We're going on a tangent. I wanted to propose we talk about the role of objectives in action. So we agree there's evolution, right? And it selects for what exists at any point in time. Is that fair to say?
I mean, evolution exists. Yeah, sure.
Sure, and it's a mechanism, right? So it acts like a program, like a computer program will do whatever it's programmed to. There doesn't necessarily need to be a purpose there. And I
don't think that evolution. I mean, evolution is a pattern that unfolds, and I think that it doesn't necessarily program us like a computer. I mean,
it does.
If it programmed us like a computer, then we would just be going around trying to screw everyone in sight, right? I mean,
no, Mike. That's if it programmed us the way Brian thinks it programmed us.
Yeah.
Then it wouldn't be doing that. Then we'd all be like that.
No, okay. So when I talk about the primary objective and the program it selects for, this is what our programming, even our temporary programming at any one point in time, this is what it forces it to converge to. And this is like a little jump, but of where I want to be right now. But I just want to establish first, everyone agrees, right? I need a vote here. It's fair to say that evolution is a mechanism that selects for whatever exists at any point in time. And we agree, and then we agree?
Sure, but this is not This isn't where the disagreement is.
No. I just want to make sure that I just want to know my footing here. So please, just for the sake of argument, just give me some ground to stand on.
Okay.
Because every time we argue, it's like it's a rocky foundation. I don't know where to stand. Okay, so
Okay, well,
evolution
is it entirely accurate to say evolution is a mechanism? I mean,
yes, it's a mechanism.
but it seems like the mechanism is, like, let's say survival of the fittest or something, and then
Is what?
evolution is the greater pattern of what occurs.
Say that again.
Like survival of the fittest would be like the mechanism.
That's a poorly
evolution. So evolution is the greater pattern of like how things evolve over time, right?
existence. We can just say we can remove all emotional terms like or emotional phrases like what you just said, survival of the fittest. That's kind of emotional, right?
Well, I mean,
We'll just call it a mechanism. Would it be fair? Is it fair just to say that it's a mechanism to select? It determines whatever's in existence at any point in time.
Sure, yeah,
fair?
I guess.
Okay, so we'll adopt that. You can change. I'll let you guys revise it if you see any problems later. I'm not opposed to revising definition. It's not set in stone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're agreement here. Adam, you can chime in too. Just say yes. Damn it. Okay, so
I mean, I think we all agree, like, for like 3 minutes.
I'm getting criticism, so it doesn't seem like okay, so we agree there. Okay, where was I going now? Okay, so evolution's a mechanism, and we all agree that the universe is deterministic, which they're almost equivalent statements, right? So the universe is deterministic, meaning it's mechanical.
In the large M limit,
In the large M limit?
M is mass. With large mass, it's deterministic. With small mass,
You mean
it's not.
by deterministic? I think you're conflating with predictable, as far as the human intellect's concerned, right? I think you're using deterministic in a different way than I am.
No. The quantum mechanics is not just unpredictable. It's causally random.
Yeah, that's what I was saying last night.
Same thing.
At the bottom.
I mean, it's not that
probabilistic.
important of a point. Pretty much, like on the macroscopic scale, the terms that are supposed to account for randomness vanish. So what you get is effectively classical.
Yeah, it's good enough to say it's deterministic on a macro scale, but not on the micro scale.
Pretty much.
Is that just due to the ignorance or inability of a human
No,
intellect at the moment?
This is just how the universe is. It's
So
fundamentally random.
why is physics looking for a unifying theory that explains everything? Are they looking for that or not?
I don't understand that
Well,
question.
isn't string theory? That was what the whole idea was.
What does that have to do with what I just said?
It implies they're looking for a deterministic function.
No, not at all. How does it imply that?
They're looking for one equation that explains everything.
That's not true. The Schrodinger equation is a differential equation that describes wave functions that describe like the probability of finding an electron in space-time. But
does it assume
not
imperfect
deterministic.
information?
What?
So all probability is conditional, or at least that's an actual equivalent statement of determinism, the way I define it. Right. So let's look at my definition of.
No, like the Schrodinger equation just describes what we see.
I first need to know what you're talking about with determinism. So let me present my definition and see if it's suitable for adoption. But it's another video, and I have to keep
I
in mind
watched
the
that
audience.
video.
I know. I just have to keep in mind the audience. So
Okay.
so here's my definition of determinism, which is kind of rough. I wrote it quickly. I mean, I'm sure I can find small flaws. Okay. Did I even have any? I don't know. Okay. Anyways, as far as error is concerned, would you guys agree? Generally, there are two types of errors in logical analysis. I use an analogy when I talk about this. There's there's you guys are at least the other two on the other side are familiar with removable and non-removable discontinuities, right?
I'm familiar.
It's calculus.
I know what it is.
Yeah, it's analogous to errors, right? So when you criticize analysis, a theorem or something, the error is either non-removable or removable. And when I say not like
Okay.
non-removable, it's a critical error that needs a total. You need a total reworking of the foundations of the theory that
Or
it relies on.
like it's simply
Yeah.
non-removable ever.
Yeah, it's either non-removable or removable, which is a small error that can be easily fixed, and it's not enough to throw away the whole theory and the foundations it built
Okay.
upon, right? So you kind of agree that, like,
So what are you saying about what does this have to do with randomness in the universe?
I had to establish that because I'm going to be referencing it in the future. As far as when you present a criticism, are you saying like a theorem or a definition is? So I think I was getting into my definition of
I'm just pointing out when you're saying things that are non-empirical. That's all I'm doing.
empirical.
Yeah, like you're saying the universe is deterministic, and I'm like,
No, that's empirical.
no,
Okay,
no,
axioms.
it's not.
Okay, here's another one of my beliefs. All axioms must be empirical because they are evidence based. They are not logic proof. Okay, so you would agree with
Okay,
this?
axiom, Brian is wrong. There. So is that empirical?
Yeah, because you can't prove it logically. Well, maybe you can, but
No, but
then
that's
it wouldn't be an axiom, right?
I don't know what you're saying
Okay,
here.
so it's not an axiom if you can prove it. If you can prove it under the already adopted
I don't have
axioms,
to. It's
right?
an axiom. I just stated it. You're
No,
just
that
wrong.
okay.
By my axiom, you're wrong. What like
Now, there's reasons why you adopt a set of axioms, just like definition, right? It
I
better
mean, I'm
explains
adopting it
reality.
because it makes this conversation.
Oh man, this is like deeper than I thought. Because I was thinking about there's value to adopting,
But I don't
and I
understand.
wanted to
I
talk
don't
about
understand
value
why
theory.
you're fighting me on like the quantum mechanics thing.
I don't see how that has any relation to neoclassical economics. Why does it matter
Me,
what we think of quantum
determinism or quantum
mechanics?
mechanics?
Like what the it seems like you're trying to start from the very smallest possible like thing and drive this everything from the smallest possible thing. Like we have to
Isn't
start
that
from
the
quantum mechanics to get to the free market, and like it's there's too much ground to cover there. And
Yeah,
I
don't
didn't
think that we're
broach
going to
quantum
cover that.
mechanics. But I do think that ultimately physicists are looking for a deterministic function. And again, I'm using determinism in with my definition. Where the fuck is it?
okay, well then your definition needs to account for the fact that position and like velocity of particles is not deterministic.
You mean relativity is deterministic?
No,
Once you give angle of approach and velocity,
no, it's
all,
not.
all
On the
relative
quantum
values are
on the
determined.
quantum scale, you can't know the position and momentum of a particle to infinite accuracy.
It,
It's
you mean
impossible.
precision or accuracy?
What's the difference? Like you can't know it.
What's the difference?
If you
Precision
know
is due
one,
to
you
your
can't know the other.
instruments. Precision is due to instruments. Accuracy is due to is truth. I mean, they're somewhat related, but they teach you this in physics, right?
You can't either
Science.
like both. Then you can't know it to infinite precision or infinite
Okay,
accuracy.
so when you assume the world's deterministic, you assume there's like I hate to use the word, but objective truth, right? So just because you don't know it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So
Okay, yeah, but then you're taking that on faith, pretty much.
yeah, it's an axiom, and it's a safe one to assume, right?
Okay, but it's not something like
It's the one that most matches empiricism.
no, it doesn't, because there's experiments that show you that positions.
Okay, but can't we just like
Assume
bracket the idea of quantum mechanics and just okay on a
let
macro
can we
level it
vote?
doesn't
Let's vote on
matter.
it.
No,
Can
we
we,
It doesn't
like
matter.
the reason is this is how Brian does his shit, and it's
Yeah.
problematic. Is he doesn't want to look at the stuff that throws a wrench into his whole
no,
plan.
how do I know you're not misrepresenting the idea? Okay, so I'm familiar
Okay, yeah,
with
no, you don't
probability,
trust
right?
me.
No,
Okay,
like,
go learn it
I mean,
yourself.
it seems like
then.
you're doing this backwards. So, like, why don't we just bring up the disagreements about neoclassical economics, and then if you're not sure what they mean by a word, just ask and clarify that instead of clarifying everything ever and then
Yeah.
going to the questions. You
I
know what I
mean, we
mean?
could spend like days, weeks, and months like clarifying everything, before actually finally getting to the thing that we want to talk about.
Maybe if you didn't wildly swing with criticism, we could proceed quickly. Right?
Yeah,
Adopt
if
the
I
definition
just
set. If you can find a counterexample, show why it's inconsistent, or present a better definition set, we can move on.
But the thing
And
is,
then
like,
I'll accept
there's
it.
always going to be like problematic things. Like,
Okay,
each of
in
these
your
things
math book,
could be.
in your math book, do they do this when they teach you math? What's the first thing they show?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they start with axioms.
Axioms
I mean,
and especially definitions, right?
that's math.
Yeah, but we're talking about like.
We've already adopted the structures and kind of the analysis of math, didn't we?
Yeah, but science is a different creature.
What? Are you sure about that?
What? Yeah, yes, man. Yes, I am sure of that.
I'm not totally ignorant of science either.
You're ignorant of the scientific method.
I'm ignorant of the scientific method?
I mean, this is what science. Like, if a scientist was in this discussion right now,
Mhm.
like a physicist, they would tell you the same thing I'm telling you, which is that the universe is fundamentally non-deterministic. It's random on the quantum level.
And
But the randomness
they've-
cancels out on the macro level, right? So essentially, we
Yeah,
can
I mean,
just
it doesn't
bracket
really
that.
matter, but it's just a little nuance
Yeah.
that you have to keep in mind.
No,
as you
I don't
go
know.
forward.
I don't know if you're misrepresenting that. Is that really the case?
Yeah, I'm lying to you, man. That's what's happening here.
I mean,
I'm making
you know,
this
I mean,
up.
as far as
we're
I
not
know-
about to like solve quantum physics in this hangout.
No, but I doubt that. I doubt they're sure they cannot logically prove that, right? Like you could never find.
Prove
like,
it.
I don't-
Just observed it. Like they
That's
observed.
not proving. That's you know the standards of proof, which what I wanted to establish too. Standards of proof come in this hierarchy, right? God damn, where is it? Okay, so first comes proof and logic, right? That's the highest standard of reasoning, and then comes evidence, right?
I don't understand. Like what? You're saying math is a priori?
Where's my stuff that I wrote? Did I save it? Okay, because I wrote some other stuff. So evidence is necessary conditions, right? And proof and logic are sufficient conditions when arguing for your conclusions, right? And
I don't
the
understand. what you
highest standard of knowing is proof, logic, and arguing sufficient conditions. You guys familiar with sufficient conditions? Like if A then B?
Yes.
Yeah.
A is a sufficient condition for B, and then therefore B is a necessary condition for A. So if not A, then not B.
Right.
Okay, so that's what evidence is. Evidence is necessary conditions. If not B, then not A. Sufficient condition, and it doesn't say anything. It's like a lesser standard of knowing. Right? So
That's
you
all
can
we have. That's all
so
we have.
what you just presented,
No, this lesser standard is the human condition.
what you just presented as far as quantum is evidence, right? But the thing is, everything else, everything on a macro scale, seems to be deterministic, right? And-
Seems to be. Keyword seems to be.
Yeah, I mean, so the preponderance of the evidence at this point becomes the standard of knowing. So I think it's rational to assume, right? I think you are misstating that though, as far as it isn't proven. All they see is they see randomness and they can't explain why, right? You're saying they can explain why, that they'll never.
No, I'm not saying. They just see randomness and they have a theory that describes like.
So you're
this
not
randomness-
you're not a hard determinist then.
Insofar as we live in a universe where all particles are like exhibit this quantum randomness, no.
Okay.
But like it
We can-
doesn't really make a difference.
Okay, just for the purposes of the debate, can we assume that it's hard to determine?
Can we just assume that it's determined for all intents and purposes on a macro level?
Yeah. Like, let's
Yeah.
just move on from this.
Yeah.
Okay, then it's we'll adopt my definition for determinism. So the whole point of bringing up quantum was just a fluff piece.
No,
Okay, so
I
let's
brought
adopt
up
my-
quantum because you said something that wasn't true. That's why I
I
brought
mean,
it up.
he was
No,
doing what
I
you
still
do,
contend
Jake.
you're
He was, like, being rigorous.
misrepresenting physics.
Okay, well then go learn
You have
physics
more
and then come
expertise
back
than
to me
physics.
about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that some other another show, and I'll probably do some research. But I'm familiar with randomness, right? I've studied I know the discipline of random variables, which quantum builds upon. I'm sure it needs it for that. Uh, it's just hard to. Anyways, let's just adopt my definition, right? We're gonna assume this is true for the universe. What the hell is it? Okay, so the probability of any well-defined event in time or in a well-defined hypothetical is either 0 or 1. Okay. Adopted?
So
Vote?
if you know, I mean, assuming away like micro level stuff on quantum mechanics, if you know everything, then you know whether that's going to occur or not going to occur, is what you're saying.
Not with respect to any one particular mind, but it's just there's objective truth. It's another way of saying there's objective truth.
Yeah. So if you adopted the mind of like God or something like that and
Yes.
knew everything, then
Yes.
you would know everything would play out. Like quantum things would basically just not be relevant, but you could just calculate all the things in like a Newtonian classical physics way, and it would all like calculate to something, right?
Somewhat. I hate linking it to Newtonian physics when it kind of inherits the inaccuracy of it.
Or I mean, I guess like relativity as well, right?
Yeah, sure. For the purpose of the debate, it's good enough. It's the best we have, right? Because to assume randomness, and you're gonna essentially argue for a very small randomness. But it seems like the more information and the more information we have, and the better our intellect to process it, the more the better our predicting capabilities are, right? At least you can give me that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just
Seems like
think that like when you get to the human scale, things become a lot less.
And here's where the quantum mechanics kicks in. It's analogous to that, right? But I claim it doesn't. So if we look at like a human's action, I claim that it is a hard program but we can't see the code, but it's there just because you got to learn to separate human knowledge and actual objective truth, right? Those are two different things. The
Yeah,
state
I mean,
of
I
human
think
knowledge is always going to be imperfect.
I would agree with that there is like some kind of function or whatever that we can't see that's like determining everything.
Yes, and that's what I'm concerned with, not with the state of the human knowledge knowing it, because it's never going to know it perfectly. I think there's probably going to be a proof of that sometime.
Then why are you trying to describe it if you can't ever know it perfectly?
Again, remember the objective of this whole discussion? The pursuit of truth.
But you just said that it's not knowable.
No, okay, so here's the whole thing. Just because it may not be not knowable, this has to do with determinism, right? The fact that if you were to know the truth, what would you do as an actor? Like, because you're doomed to it. It's all this. It all boils down to this quantum weirdness, right? When you get down to it, and you're gonna have to address this sooner or later.
Weirdness. I think that's a different level of analysis. I think this is more about like
it's analogous to it though.
It's more about our lack of knowledge, because like probability or Bayesian probability has to do with our lack of knowledge of what's going to happen, right? So, and I think on some level, whatever objective function this is so insanely complicated that no human mind could ever comprehend it or even come close. Yeah. And I think that like by tricking ourselves into thinking that we know the objective function, like there's no way unless we were like have like godlike powers of.
It would require omniscience.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So yes, that's exactly it. But here's the kicker, right? Nature doesn't give a shit. It'll always reward and punish you whatever based upon the function, right? It doesn't give a shit. This is what I say the primary objective is of the actor. This is why we've developed brains in the first place. This is why we developed morality in the first place. I claim morality is basically game theory. It's basically omniscient game.
Yeah, but then you're claiming to know the thing that it would require an omniscient mind to know.
I have to. It's like a game nature forces me to play. I'll never know it, but it forces me to try my best at it.
You're pretending to know it right now.
Okay, let me analogize this with this, and we were going this in the comments, right? we know the second law of thermodynamics. We'll never be able to create a system where we can turn energy into perfect work, right? Proportionally, perfect refrigerator, right?
Mhm.
You agree with that, right? So does that mean we stop trying to minimize friction in when we create a mechanical system?
I think you're vastly underestimating how complicated this objective function is. Like, to really know everything, to like just be able to calculate anything, like the master function to describe everything, it's not going to happen. Like,
But again, that's
not even close. Like,
nature doesn't care. There are
you're not even
consequences.
going to get to like
But what do you do?
0.001%
Do you try to maximize accuracy to this function,
Are
or
you
do you just
speaking
stop?
from nature's perspective right now?
Talking about from any actor's perspective.
You're
Nature's- in
you're
the context of nature.
you're trying to take the omniscient perspective, Brian.
No, it
Yeah,
forces
you
me
are.
to play the game, right?
But
Ne-
you're
let
trying
me-
to describe this super function and its properties.
Let me put an extreme example. Nature forces me a game where I have to choose between two spots. One spot it will drop a rock on, right? Now, as a rational actor, if I want to continue my existence, if I want to continue my future behavior and my genes and memes, it's incumbent upon me to try to find out the function that it uses to determine which spot it'll drop the rock on. And this is morality here. It's a sick fucking game.
No, I get, like, that's all fine, but the problem is when you go further than that and say that's like, oh, this here prime objective, this is what nature intends, and I
Yeah.
know this perfectly
No,
because I'm Brian.
Well, okay. So here's the thing: you can capture perfection. Well, so like in the statistical test, right? When you're creating a confidence interval, right? Your level of confidence decreases as you decrease your interval size, right? So the larger you're more likely to capture objective truth by generalizing, in other words, right? So I don't have to perfectly match so I can perfectly describe the function in some aspect. I can just
Yeah,
determine
but it's so general that it's no longer meaningful to any
no
real-life activity.
and until you
It's so
until you hear my
general.
no until you hear my reasoning. How do you know that?
I've already
So
heard your reasoning like 3 times.
Oh, they didn't. The rest of the
Okay,
panel have.
well.
Well, I think Mike has.
I mean, I've heard it like 18 times.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that neoclassical is like, on some level, it exhibits the same kind of drive to derive things from first foundations, and then ultimately it ends up being so general as to not have any content at all. And that's what we're getting at with the SMD, Sunshine, Mantel-Dubrow theorem. It's saying
That's a little jump, but
that all this work that they did, like this giant freaking book of like all these derivations, like in the end didn't come to any content whatsoever. Like
How many pages is that?
it's like 1,000+ pages.
Again,
it's like, this
again.
is Brian. This is
What
like
the fuck is in that book?
Okay, can we explore the inverse fallacy here, right?
Yeah.
So the inverse fallacy says that so if A then B, right, the propositional statement is not equivalent to if not A then not B, right?
wait,
so
say it again?
if A then B is not equivalent in any way, I don't even think logically implicates if not A then not B, right? So
Right.
if I am male then I am human, but it doesn't mean if I am not male I am not human.
Right.
So it's the same fallacy as saying, so there's if, what is that, a preposition? There's an if and then a conclusion, right? What's the first part of a logical statement? Something in conclusion?
I forgot.
Proposition and conclusion?
Premise.
Premise and a conclusion, right? So you have a premise and a conclusion, right? If your premise is wrong, it doesn't mean your conclusion's wrong, right? So this is why I criticize Austrians, right? I criticize their methodology rather than their conclusions, which I adopt for the most part, except for Rice. Well, actually, that's a methodology which I criticize. So this is the thing: you're criticizing you're criticizing a methodology. You're looking at errors in the methodology and saying its conclusions are wrong. And then you're somehow implicating that government, some form of government, is necessary from that. So you're negating the conclusion.
No, I totally agree with you that, like, basically, if someone has an incorrect argument for a thing, that doesn't mean the thing is wrong.
Yes.
So, like, and I agree with that, and I think that there are certain arguments that could be made for libertarianism or free market or whatever.
Now, is it more comprehensive than this fat book you're making fun of right now?
Yeah.
Do you have another fat book?
I mean, I have.
They exist.
Not quite as fat.
So let's even call it linear, right? It's not linear, right? But let's call it a linear science, right? Is there a linear science that even backs? Is there even a linear science that backs government? Is there, if not a dynamic?
There's plenty of social sciences that do, and there's plenty of subsets of like economics that do.
As rigorous as economics? I doubt it.
More rigorous than neoclassical, actually.
Let's take a look at a college course. A course
the college courses aren't rigorous. That's why they're not even in the science.
You're kidding me.
That's why they're not even in like the science denomination. They're social science.
You mean they're on the fringes, and you're calling that rigorous?
They're on the fringes, yeah, because the core of it is a religion. It's not rigorous at all.
And I understand your basic. It's not rigorous at all. And
here's the problem, okay? Like Nietzsche talks about this, but basically, modernist philosophy, it starts with its conclusion. It starts with the conclusion that the free market is morally good, and from there it tries to derive from first principles the thing that it already believes. So
are you sure you guys are not doing the same?
I mean, I'm not. I don't really have any.
Tenuous.
I'm like, I adopt more of a critical theory standpoint where I'm just.
Okay then.
What do you mean? Am I doing
the same criticisms when Tenuous brings up heterodox economics?
Well, I mean, I'm skeptical of post-Keynesian economics as well. I mean, I think it's probably.
Now, which one is more rigorous?
Has the best track record.
No, it doesn't.
As far as empirical.
If they did, they'd dominate the free market.
They dominate the stock market. Says who? What if the market's full of idiots? Like that's why they're not dominating. No, but they could predict it then. Then they predict it. Then their model accounts for it. What?
You know how hard it is to predict. I mean, not even. You know, quants. You know, financial quants are basically physicists now, right?
I don't know what the heck that has to do. I don't know what that has to do with the validity of post-Keynesian.
No, it is. I remember your conversation, and you're glorifying physicists versus and their prediction capabilities when it comes to something as a non-controlled science like economics. They have the same disability when it comes to economics. When you put a physicist in the science of economics, it's a younger theory. It's a younger discipline. And so
it is. That's why the core of it is full of nonsense. It's because it hasn't had that Copernican revolution yet.
And okay. Here's again. This is inverse fallacy. What if the Copernican revolution actually proves the free market? This is what you don't.
It won't. The free market.
The methodology is wrong. Therefore, the conclusion.
The free market isn't a new idea. It's been around for hundreds of years.
You know why it persists?
Because it's a religion. The same reason Christianity persists.
Absolutely not. Okay, we're jumping a little. I actually just want to
see analytical tools and developments in other fields that have happened since free market capitalism has existed.
Let's try it your way. Okay, we're gonna jump to the tenuous debate. We're gonna go to economics, and we're not gonna set down the definitions. We're gonna see how it goes, and watch. It's gonna be fucking messy. I mean, we can do it along the way.
Welcome to reality. Things are messy.
That's not reality. This is Facebook.
Oh no, yes, reality is perfect. Everything is perfect and ideal in my
I want to approach it academically, systematically. Instead, you want to do it casually, like on Facebook. You want to have a Facebook debate.
You're not approaching this academically at all.
Am I not? Can I have a?
If you were approaching it academically, you'd be interested in doing.
Adam, where the fuck are you?
No, I mean, the thing is that I don't think they I agree with them that there's a problem with axiomatization. And there's economists have a boner for physicists, and they want to be an objective science really bad or whatever.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, we're dealing with human behavior. Like, how realistic is it
That
to think that
doesn't
we're going to
mean.
calculate
No, but yeah, like you're trying
human
to be
behavior?
rigorous, Brian. I mean, you're trying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My bad.
But you're not like to be rigorous. You have to like do
Lay
research.
down definitions and axioms.
No. You have to do research. You have to write papers. You have to go. You have to have a PhD and like look at what the other researchers in the field are doing.
Okay, it's gonna take about another.
Yes,
7
but
years.
that's what you have. That's what you have to do if this is what you're interested in.
No.
Yes.
You're assuming a PhD is a necessary condition for.
That's just.
being
I'm just
rigid.
saying
I don't
you
want to
need
say
to be
rigorous.
working at it. You need to be working on
It's
it.
not a necessary
seriously,
condition to be rigorous.
You
All
need
you
to
need
be
is
working
all
on
you-
it like the Brian. You need to be working on it like the academics do. You need to take it seriously. You're
The only
like-
necessary condition for rigor is upper division mathematics. Learning the laws of writing formal.
But you're not
proof.
even
That's it.
doing like
It's
none
not
of
a PhD.
None of your definitions here are even rigorous. Like the meta self isn't a
It's
rigorous.
as rigorous as you can present. Look at my definition for determinism. It's in terms of probability, and it uses mathematical
No,
terms
you
like
can do way more.
well-defined.
You can do a lot more work. Like, do you realize people spend years of their life trying to make ideas like this serious?
Can you present a
it
piece of
took-
work that is a better alternative to what I'm presenting right now? And I'm here. I'm open to hear it. And I've
Not
told you.
not on this particular subject.
Then until then, maybe
Not
until
on
next
this
debate,
particular
let's adopt this
subject.
for now.
No.
Unless you can
I mean-
formulate a better one. I'm open to a better formulation. Now suggest one.
I'm saying is you have to put more work to make a better formulation.
As far as
Okay.
progressing the debate, you take what's best available. We're not gonna come back in 7 years and
the
progress.
debate doesn't have any meaning
I mean,
if. Well,
can we,
what
can
were
we
you
just
kidding
like
me?
have a little bit more?
Adam, where the fuck are you?
Can we just have a little bit more honesty here? Like the fact of the matter is, Ego, that you started with the conclusion that the free market is good, and now you're trying to derive a whole
When did
philosophy
I say-
that'll
Adam,
prove
did
the
I
thing
say
that
that?
you already believed.
Adam, did
No,
I say that?
No,
No,
he
I only said that when
you did
I addressed this point, but I'm not really jumping to that. I'm establishing these definitions here.
Yeah, but you already believe that the free market is good.
Yes, of
Right?
course.
So,
I'm
so
not
then why
gonna
do you
deny
need
that.
all of this?
But
to
also,
define that?
Tenuous believes the opposite, the negation of that. At least
Yeah.
some government is needed, right? Which
Yeah,
is
so
a
why are we
That's
negation.
still
not.
talking
That's
about
not
the
like.
beliefs as they are?
Who
What's that?
even says that that's a clear negation? Like that's not.
It's logic, right?
No, this isn't formal. This isn't formal logic, though.
We didn't even get to this part yet. I'm just
Formal
trying to.
This isn't as
You
clear-cut
should,
as,
guys.
like-
You guys are emotionally against me setting definition when you should be neutral. It
We
should
should
be
accept-
a neutral
it's-
process setting down definition. It's proposed,
not.
analyzed,
It's
and
not.
take the best option. Because we have to proceed with the debate. Because we're gonna be using fucking terms.
Okay, why do you feel the need to prove this so much? Like, to prove something that you already believe?
I want rigor. Whatever we're gonna prove.
You want to prove it.
Of course, I'm going to be trying to prove, while you're also trying to disprove me, which is the same thing as proof, right? The thing is, we need at least a common ground to accomplish either of our tasks. If you see a
think
deficiency
reality
in the
works
definition-
the way that you think it does.
What's that?
I think that we already start with the feeling that this thing is right. or
Feeling
this
is
thing
not
wrong.
good enough.
Why is
Feeling
it not good enough?
is okay. Let's try it. Okay, I'll
inevitable.
oblige you guys and try it your way. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna proceed the way you guys want it, kind of more casual, right? Less rigor, because that's wrong somehow. And we're gonna jump to the economics debate. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're jumping to the tenuous second half. Forget all this rigor.
I honestly, I don't even like. There's a flaw in the definition of meta self.
I didn't even
You need to
present it
get-
yet. Yeah, I know that I know
read
there are
it.
flaws, but it's very small.
Oh no, it's not. It's
Okay,
not
go-
small at all.
Present your criticism then. Go ahead. Just
You say
show
meta self is.
it's
smallest
it's
bit.
poorly defined on the descriptor part because
Right. It's even right there.
what?
Meta self is the smallest in terms of number of descriptors.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's uncountably many descriptors for any object,
Mhm.
and the smallest like set of descriptors. What is that?
That's actually a good point, but you know there are different infinities.
Yeah, I know, but that's still like I don't know what that even means. Like this is like a
No,
being
but
that which none greater can
okay.
be conceived. This is like Anselm's argument
Okay.
for the existence of God.
I see the criticism, but we can using some of your sentiment back at you. I think that doesn't mean there's a removable discontinuity there, right? Doesn't mean I just need to fix something and it's done, right?
Well, then
But for intuition, just for purpose of conversation, it feels good enough, right?
it doesn't feel good enough to me.
It's not perfect. Again, it's not perfect, but it's rigorous enough.
Well, Brian, why are you what do you mean it feels good enough? Aren't you the guy who's against feelings? What's all this stuff about feeling good enough?
No. Okay, so I'm using logic, right? The preponderance of the evidence is all we have here. We don't have logical proof, so our next best alternative is evidence, right? And it's the most. Do you understand, man? I keep making the same fucking argument over and over again, and you keep trying to change it into a different argument, a stupider argument, which is not what I'm saying. I'm saying is we don't have logical proof, obviously. So the next best thing is evidence.
Okay, so why don't we like agree on a claim that neo-Keynesians make, and then you argue for it, and then Brian argues against
aren't
it or
the
whatever.
Neo-Keynesians just like pretending to be
He's against
different
that
than
too.
neoclassicals?
Okay, so whatever is cool, like
It's the new
Keynesian.
He's post-Keynesian. He's
Okay,
heterodox.
yeah, that's what I meant.
I'm just saying, like this theory, like what is it? The egotism theory is just not well fleshed out or developed or meaningful.
I think it presents the bare bones good enough.
It's meaningful to you. It doesn't mean anything to me. Meta self means nothing to me right now. It's the smallest set of like uncountably many terms, and there's no such like what is a smallest set of descriptors could just be a set with one descriptor. You're made of. You exist in the universe. There.
You said that every object can be. The thing is, there's quality of there might be quality of descriptors. You see, it's so broad. I have to lay out the general, and I know you'll accuse me of like working toward my conclusion, but I have to lay out the general bones, right? I have to go through it intuitively first, then come back and
this isn't intuitive to me.
No, yeah.
To me.
Well, I'll make a case for it. I can make a rough, intuitive case for it. I can actually make somewhat of a rigorous proof for at least some of the intuition, right? Which is kind of weird. I didn't mean that in a rigorous way, but I can do that, right? But you never gave me the chance to. But actually,
I'm giving you the chance. I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I like this. And yeah, this is valid. Your criticism is valid. But for now, like and at least intuitively, which is all we have at the moment, intuitively, we feel that there is a smallest set that describes you, right?
Well, intuitively, I feel as if there isn't.
Like we can add another descriptor that doesn't fit you. Right? So obviously, you can't just keep adding without at your discretion, right? There's some point where so each descriptor. Look, no. So here's another way you can think of it. Even though the number of descriptors might be infinite, which is just a conjecture, right? At this point, it's just a conjecture.
No, I mean it's clearly infinite. It's uncountably infinite.
Yeah, because descriptors are kind of mapped to the real numbers, or at least the natural numbers, right?
No, the real numbers. It's uncountable.
No,
uncountable. Dude, I could describe like your position in space relative to other points.
Just color alone can be mapped to the real number system.
Yeah,
right?
like
light alone, right?
And
but
it's
still,
not even like it's like art of the infinity. Like it's not like.
Still, there's like levels of infinity, and this I think
it's meaningless, dude. It's so general that it has no meaning.
It's not meaningless, right? But there is like for now, I think we can just I can adjust this later, like rigorously. I have to go back to real analysis, right?
No, good luck. Do it. Like write a paper.
No, but I just have to at least like catch the big errors before I catch the really abstract ones, right? Isn't that rational? Like when you construct a theory, first find the low-hanging fruit, and then go for the fucking climb the whole tree and fill in all the holes. That's a rational way to approach a philosophy if you're constructing one, right?
Not unless, well, like.
So right now, yours is based on the conjecture that even if it's infinite, see, it's not necessarily mutually exclusive. Smallest and infinite, they're not.
I know.
Smallest doesn't mean finite,
doesn't
right?
matter. It doesn't matter because
So
smallest still
here's
means nothing.
Here's your criticism in a nutshell. Does smallest necessarily mean finite?
No, that's not what I said.
No, does it? Does it though?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay, then there's not necessarily
But you still have a problem. You still have a problem. Is that what is the smallest set of descriptors for any object?
Yeah, it's somewhat poorly defined. But unless you're a mathematician, I think we can proceed with the debate. Right? Because
dude, if a mathematician saw this definition, they would throw the paper in your face and say it's not rigorous at all.
No, they wouldn't fault me for it because of the stage of development, right? Right.
Stage of development.
Okay. Here's the inverse fallacy. Here's the inverse fallacy again. Just because I don't have the logical proof, it doesn't
mean it's wrong. But they wouldn't take you seriously either. They would say
at least give me the benefit of the free. Like you're really criticizing. You're really trying to find any possible flaw and saying that it negates my claim. This is an inverse.
I'm not saying it negates your claim. I'm like.
Can we take a vote at this point?
I know you're based on my intuition. I know your claim is wrong.
I propose a vote at this point.
If you
is this roughly acceptable for now, unless someone can present a better alternative, as far as
let me read this,
which no one else wants to acknowledge, right? I'm the only one who talks about one to one.
I don't know. I thought it was going to be about post-Keynesianism or whatever.
Yeah, like when are we going to talk about economics?
Oh, Tenuous jumped back to this. Right?
Talk about anything. My point is, like,
Tenuous, he went back to meta-self, right? We were
going to jump so many, there's so many problems with Brian's method that it doesn't matter what we talk about.
Okay, we were gonna drop this whole. I don't think I need meta-self for this part of the debate, right? So we can come back to this again, Tenuous.
Sure.
But your criticism is somewhat valid, but it doesn't prove wrong, right? It just proves that I have to. Of course, I know I have to put a little. Dude, it's hard constructing a rigorous philosophy. It's very hard.
Not a little. Yeah, it is very hard.
Give me some leeway, dude. Come on. Okay, do you hold your philosophy to the same standard of rigor?
Yeah.
Do you have even something remotely as rigorous as mine, even though it's not perfectly rigorous?
I haven't worked it all out yet.
Yeah, it's not even as rigorous as mine. So why are you holding me to a different standard?
I'm just pointing it out in case you weren't aware.
I know it. I know this. I even said it. It's going to be on a very abstract level, though. I honestly
understand
it. No, it's a valid but very esoteric criticism.
What the point of the meta self definition even is? It's too broad.
Yeah, let's just drop. We're going to jump to your shit, right? I think we're going to proceed the way everybody. I think we've implied voted, and we're gonna go your way, right?
Whatever you want, man. I'm just
implied voted.
As I see them.
Now I concede, and you're kind of like you're criticizing me. Wait. I concede. Okay, let's proceed your way. It seems like everyone wants to do it that way, right? Not set out definition. We'll do it along the way and see how it goes. Maybe it'll work out better. Maybe.
I guess I would just prefer to talk about the actual things that we're going to talk about.
Let's go to economics.
And if there arises certain definitional things, then we'll talk about that.
We'll do it that way. Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so we're all in agreement as far as the Austrian school, the criticisms. We all attack their methodology, right? Their fake praxeology, their fake logic, which is math without quantitative analysis, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they use a kind of implicit math that they're not even aware of, that is probably not very rigorous and probably has all sorts of errors.
Yes, but the thing is, where we differ in that is that I actually adopt most of their conclusions. And I claim that you kind of are committing an inverse error, saying that their methodology is wrong, therefore their conclusions are wrong.
I guess I'm not really saying that the conclusion is wrong, that the free market is bad or anything. I don't believe that the free market is good, but I have my own reasons for
now,
that.
What's the optimum level of government? And let's define government, right? So let's define government at this point. I think it's obligatory at this point. So I propose that government should be defined as a monopoly on aggression, or I don't know, justice. What do you think, Adam? As
I
far
mean,
as from the
you
libertarian
have to like
perspective.
nuance that, sort of like legitimized aggression or whatever.
No, aggression. Aggression. So it determines what. Yeah, it's implied in all
No, but then
aggression.
if,
What's
if you don't
legit
if
and not.
you don't have legitimized, then
No,
like
it
a
says
bank
it
robbery is the
controls
state.
aggression itself. So it controls which one it wants and which one it doesn't want. In essence, legitimate. It's already It's already accounted for in that definition.
I guess my definition would be a monopoly in the presumed justify initiation of aggression.
No, it's more comprehensive if you just say aggression.
Yeah, but then bank robbers are the state, though.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I mean, that sounds weird.
they have a
Right,
monopoly on aggression. That covers that. That's what government is, right?
I wouldn't use that definition.
Oh, because you're using. Oh man, you're using.
Or so you mean
you're
like
using legitimate in terms of a moral sense, right?
No, but like it's
Here's the
perceived
problem.
by
You
the.
never. You're. I think. Are you referring to morality when you say legitimate?
No, I'm referring to the perception of citizens.
Yeah, morality. Kind of like
No, but that's not
ethics.
morality. Though. Like I don't have to agree with any moral thing to see that like there's an element of complacency for the government. Like for example, if like a normal person gets swatted or something, they're gonna be like, oh my god, there's like thieves in my house. But if someone else does the same, they're gonna have that reaction. So in the minds of people, there's a moral distinction between the state and just thieves, right?
We're always approaching it from like an imperfect mind. That's not. Anyways, wait.
Yes,
Okay.
let's approach it from a perfect mind, please. Where do we have one of those anywhere lying around? I don't see one.
Isn't that an honorable goal? Isn't that an honorable goal?
Doesn't make sense, dude.
To minimize friction in a mechanical system, even though you can't because second law of thermodynamics?
It makes
Isn't that an honorable goal to minimize friction to zero?
Just
Is it? Is it not? Isn't that what you want to avoid scarcity? Tenuous? To approach your asymptote? Isn't that what you want? To minimize friction to zero? But you can't. Therefore, you shouldn't try. Is that your argument, Tenuous? Is that your argument, Tenuous?
no.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. But okay, so can anyone? Okay, Adam, what was your definition for government again? I really think we should just use aggression, not legitimate aggression.
I mean, legitimate as far as most people are concerned.
Because legitimate's poorly defined, you'll have to define that. Define legitimate.
No, okay, so I can explain. Like the example I think was sufficient, right? Like if a person has, they have part of their paycheck taken away, and if it's done by a state agent, they think that's fine. If it's done by anyone else, they
What
consider
makes
that
it
theft.
objectively legitimate or not?
No, like the perception, like it's not objectively legitimate. It's the
So
perception.
you're
of the
talking
people.
about a societal norm then.
Yes.
Oh, what the fuck? Do we need to go back to morality then?
No, like it's like a positive observation. This is how people believe. Like,
And how does that affect what nature's selecting for? And then now we're going back to what we should have established.
what's the relevant of that question?
What's the relevance? It's always relevant, isn't it?
I mean, I thought we were defining state.
Shit, you're the one giving me. Can we just adopt the first? We put it to vote, right? Adams versus mine. Just the monopoly.
I vote we agree with Brian, otherwise he's going to complain.
I'm not trying to overpower you guys. Well,
No, but
I am,
if I slap you or something, am I the state?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, Adam, you are the state.
All right, my vote is to just
so I have to define control then. I have to find control.
adopt the definition
Monopoly
of
control of
government.
aggression. That's what I said, right?
Yo, Mike
So I have to define control in that respect, and it covers it. If I do.
Adopt the definition of government as a monopoly of force. There's probably certain problems with that, but let's just go with it as a
Good enough.
progress, as a whatever you call it.
I mean, I guess we can all say we know what we mean when we say state.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be right, Adam. I might need to re-listen to your. You might be right, but just for now, just because of my inferior listening ability, let's just go with mine. So the monopoly on force or aggression, which would be more appropriate? because aggression is an initiation of force, right? Unprovoked, somewhat.
I mean, I think we all know what we mean when we say state, so like we can just move on.
You sure? Okay, let's take it for granted then. Let's just skip along. State. Okay, government. I'm sure this is gonna get conflated somewhere. Okay, so you're arguing that can we formalize your guys' argument? I would say that. Let me say that our formal argument is that the optimum amount of government, the way it's casually defined, is zero. The optimum amount of government is zero. You guys are saying it's not zero, and well, it's positive, right?
Yeah.
That's your argument. Is that fair to say? Did I misrepresent what you're trying to prove here? So our burden of proof is much greater than yours. If you can prove any need for the state, you win by default. You would agree there? I've just set a incredibly hard task for our side. At least I don't know. Adam, are you there? No.
I mean, I guess for me, like my perspective is that in the long term, anarchism is probably the way to go. Like in terms of like just a basic moral standpoint. But I think that given certain imperfections that we have, like just right now, like a government is necessary. I would like to move to a society where we don't rely on like some kind of monopoly of force or something.
Okay.
But I just given the way things are right now, I would say that it's probably not the best idea to just abolish the state.
Okay. Okay, we can address that argument, and I'm sure Tenuous is. I'm not sure if Tenuous would agree with that. Would you agree with that too?
I mean, I don't even completely agree with Mike here. I think you can't.
And you criticize libertarians for not agreeing perfectly.
I think you can't completely get rid of government. It's just not possible.
Okay, so Tenuous's argument is the optimum amount of government is non-zero, is positive, and Mike is saying it's just a means to free market in the short run.
No, I mean,
or medium run.
I'm saying that like I'm more of the left anarchist position, and that I'm like opposed to, in general, to government and capitalism and just all kinds of hierarchies. But I just think that like basically government is not self-justifying. Like it can always be challenged, but I think that right now it's not conceivable to just eliminate it, because I think that the way we think and the way we interact it's too dependent on the necessity of government.
Are you saying governments in the future will be obsolete? It's like a technology that's relevant now but obsolete in the future?
Yeah, I think once we achieve a certain level of consciousness and have certain non-state institutions to achieve the functions of the state, then we won't need the state anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I get that.
But that's like maybe way in the future. Like I don't think that's.
And Tenuous says it's so
right now.
It's never going to completely vanish.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, it becomes like irrelevant because we don't really know what's going to happen in the future. Like all we can do is really act
That's
now.
true.
You know, so like it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of think that we can do without the state, but the prospect of that is so far off that it's almost irrelevant.
Okay.
Whether we can or we can't.
And Adam, you would agree with my formulation of my argument? Zero.
What was your argument? Yeah.
Zero
Like,
optimum government.
I'm not sure if Mike means it as a practical consideration that we can get rid of the state, or if he means it as a prescription. So like you think we should not have a state, but that it's impractical, like it's not going to happen.
It's somewhat contradictory.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a complicated position, but I think that
I
morally,
think contradictory ultimately.
Yeah.
I bet I can.
Morally, the state is not necessarily justified. I just don't think that it's.
What do you mean by justified?
I mean, like morally justified in terms of using force against people. I mean, I think that I'm more of a pacifist in that sense, but
morally in what respect?
just in the respect of basically just people interacting peacefully with each other.
Why is that necessarily a primary objective?
I don't really believe in primary objectives, so.
See, I'm gonna need this to argue against it. We didn't set it up, but let's try. Let's keep going. Okay, we have a sense of our arguments. Okay, so we're gonna argue the case in terms of. I think it applies to both your guys' arguments. The other side, that government's actually causes the problems you're referring to, right? I guess that's where we're gonna go, Adam.
Mm.
Is that what we're trying to do?
I guess. I mean, this is all very vague so far.
And and also, anytime you argue for government, essentially you're arguing for a monopoly. You're gonna make a case where some monopoly is good, even though I'm gonna make the case. I say that monopoly isn't inherently bad, but the type that's taught in first, Econ 101, that monopoly analysis is valid. That's the type of monopoly that is inherently bad. But there are two types of monopolies, right? There's a monopoly where you're the most efficient supplier. So you're just so dominant in supply, you can take 100% share. That's through lowering prices and increasing quantity. Directly the opposite of what they teach you in first year economics.
Are you gonna make the dead weight loss argument thing?
Yes, they're
But that's not gonna work though. It's like that, they think economics is wrong or whatever.
What's it? No, but they don't have any quantitative analysis to show otherwise. So let's even assume it's not linear, right? So all that analysis needs is the law of supply and demand, right? And I think there's a stronger law there that accounts.
They think they disagree with that.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get to that too. But all it stands on is the law of supply and demand, which essentially is logically equivalent to negative slope demand curves and positively sloped supply curves. Right?
Which is exactly what the SMD theorem disputes.
Yeah, so you have to argue that, and then you can make it that way.
SMD theorem doesn't dispute positively sloped supply curves.
Well, I mean, it talks about the excess demand function, which kind of wraps up supply and demand into one function.
Oh, okay. I don't know anything about. Okay, never mind.
Continue. I was like reading some of it. I was reading SMD theorem on Wiki.
Yeah, we can see. We can see this.
Oh yeah, if you guys can continue to debate.
Oh, okay.
Present more of your case. Present more of your case.
No, but you have to make the case for supply and demand for your argument to work then.
Yes, and I do, and because there's a strong law of supply and demand, I believe, that covers any little inconsistency. Because usually these graduate theories, what they do is they show kinks, at best.
That's what the neo-Keynesians are doing. They're trying to find. They're saying, yeah, there's kinks sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. But you can generalize the theory enough that those kinks are gone. Right? So you can with a well-defined term of utility in terms of the primary objective, which I didn't establish, right? Everything clicks. It doesn't make sense. It's not rational to lower utility at any time for a rational actor to have lower utility.
You can't ever work out all the kinks because there's uncountably many kinks. It's the same thing.
No, you can, dude.
No, you can't. It's the same. It's the computational problem.
No, it's like induction. Right? So when you have a formula that applies to all real numbers or all integers, right?
It's not
infinite. It's an infinite amount of integers.
It's not the same. To look at
inductively, which is deduction, really. It shows it for all numbers.
To see all the kinks, you would need infinite information. You'd need to know every possible thing that could happen, every possible exogenous shock, everything.
No, you just need general condition. I don't want to say it. I don't know how to phrase it.
If it's too general, it won't have meaning.
But you would agree that your first argument was incorrect, right? Just because there may be an infinite amount of something doesn't mean that there's not a proof to.
Yeah, but see, then you're not working them out like from the micro level.
What?
If there's some general property that they all have, you're not necessarily looking at it from the micro level.
And we go back to the primary objective. I can prove just because, okay, you can always, there's always, I can prove there always exists some level of commonality for any object in the universe. Agree or disagree? Because
yes, but it's not meaningful.
It is.
Like, things aren't understood that way. They're not understood from the bottom up.
You can generalize a strategy to this general prime objective.
Things aren't like economics and just science. It's not learned or understood bottom up. It's understood top down.
I mean, I think I have to agree with just that point. Like, not everything is like Euclid's elements, and I think it's a mistake to approach everything like Euclid's elements. Like, even like the way Euclid's element. I mean, you must know this, right? Like, geometry existed, and he just looked at all the geometry beforehand, and from those really solid truths created the general theory, right? So I think at this point we are still looking for the, little formulas, to keep using the analogy, and we don't have all the formulas, so to speak. So we cannot make a general theory. I think you're like, it's a huge task. And I think there's not enough information.
I mean,
there is.
Already,
that's a fallacy.
I mean, neoclassical is a general theory, and like, it doesn't have enough content to say anything meaningful about what actually is happening in the economy.
I think it does. So you're saying, since there are flaws in it, it's totally useless. Is that your claim?
No, I'm saying that they make totally illegitimate assumptions to force it to have content which it doesn't necessarily have if you don't make those unrealistic assumptions.
Are you confusing assumptions with conditions? They're not the same thing.
No, I'm because they make very concrete assumptions about that, like, for instance, that all consumers are the same.
No, these are conditions. These aren't assumptions. They don't. Of course, they don't make these.
This is the whole Milton Friedman's argument. It's like,
I don't know that argument. I don't know if it's relevant.
The conditions, the assumptions determine the domain of where the problem, where the tool actually works. Yes.
But no. Assumptions are saying that they're true, right? Conditions are which your conclusions are true. They're too distinct. Don't conflate. They're very distinct. A normal person will conflate these two.
Okay, fine. Then the conditions are telling you that this works. This law of supply and demand only works when all consumers are the same.
Yeah,
no, that's like perfect competition. Are you referring perfect competition analysis? Because they're gradients of competition they analyze, and they just because they don't mention it, they imply some of the other. So what's the three conditions that they
have? You don't have a negative demand curve unless all consumers have the same preferences,
which they don't.
Okay, so let's just talk about the demand curve of the individual. Let's talk about the demand curve for the individual. I claim I can generalize the law of demand and supply for the individual on a micro level, right?
Then if I define, if you generalize it, it won't have any meaning.
Yes, it will. It will have general meaning, but it will be accurate.
The thing is, you're still like very caught up in partial equilibrium analysis. That's what you get to in grad school, is general equilibrium, where there is no supply and demand anymore. It's just the excess demand function, and basically everyone is simultaneously a producer and a consumer. And if their excess demand is positive, then they want to buy the thing. If it's negative, they want to sell it. And what the SMD theorem is saying is that can take any shape whatsoever. So there's no, in the general equilibrium analysis, the idea that demand curves slope down and supply curves slope up is just meaningless.
Now, here's the problem, right? Anytime, I didn't catch all of that. I caught some of it, but anytime you analyze a particular good, your criticism is somewhat valid, right? Now, if you generalize the good to utility itself, and you define utility in terms of the usefulness to the primary objective,
no,
it becomes valid.
See, this is why I started by criticizing the meta-self, because you don't have, that's a meaningless concept right now.
No, I claim it is, and guess what? It can be it can be empirical too, as far as. You can actually prove it mathematically. You can use. I'm trying to construct the foundation where you can apply.
Yeah, you need to construct it. You need to construct it before.
But you can feel. You know how you can feel a somewhat easy general proof. Intuitively, you can kind of feel it. You know, when
No,
you're
like you know what? You said feelings were bad, so right now I'm not feeling anything.
no, based upon your logical experiences. I didn't mean feeling like
Yeah, based on my logical experiences, this is just there's no meaning here.
yeah, okay, so
Utility
first off,
theory
let's try it. Okay, so let me
is
formulate
like
the argument. Okay, so the primary objective is to perpetuate instances of the meta selves, right? So if you define utility in terms of this, right? Because utility is so poorly defined, right?
yeah, you can do that. Like you can do that, but right now these are just like variables or functions that can be anything. Like
Because here's the problem: anytime these graduate analysis thing, they always consider one particular good, and then it applies when there's substitutes and stuff and other goods that or substitute complements or whatever. And like when you take all goods into account, all utility or into account, the strong law of supply and demand holds, and it's perfect, right? It explains,
Well, I
and
mean, I guess if we're just talking about the meta self, then yeah, I guess all consumers are identical because they're all identical to the meta self. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah, they each have a distinct goal because
but I
their
mean
meta selves are
that's
inherently
not
different.
meaningful for practical like
It
day-to-day
is.
things.
That's a claim that I have yet to even I haven't even done even.
So you're saying that like the meta self is will have a certain set of preferences based on evolution or whatever, and then yeah, I mean, I guess if there is only one like true legitimate self, which is the meta self, then I guess the SMD theorem is not problematic because then we can assume that every consumer is identical because everyone is just identical to the meta self.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying okay. So each meta self for each individual is different, right? So you're identical to your own meta self.
Okay, so then the SMD theorem does apply because then we're not identical
No, we're applying utility with so utility is relative, and
relative to what?
that accounts for the any complaint you have, I think. So
What do you mean
utility
it's
is
relative?
relative. It applies to the utility to perpetuate their meta self, not anyone else's.
Okay, so basically, okay, so well, yeah, so we have like we may have certain preferences, but if they're not in alignment with the preferences of our meta self, then that's
Yes.
incorrect in some sense, is what you're saying?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so
That's not what I
then
was saying there, but
the problem is like whatever our true preferences are, or whether they're the meta self or whatever,
whatever your
you run into
preferences
the
are, actually.
S&P theorem because people are not identical. And if you don't have identical consumers, then it's not true that demand curves slope down. That because the S&P theorem says that you can't assume that.
Let me see that. I was reading some of the SMD theorem. Let me
You're
see
not
what
going to
it
learn
says.
it. You're not going to learn about
No,
this in
I
like
can
the
see like
space of a few
the general
minutes.
point, what it is, right? I
We
mean,
told you the general point. Like it's what Mike told you.
yeah, I'm not. It's hard learning verbally. You really think
It is.
it's
You have
very?
things to read, Brian. You have readings to do.
No, but I'm. Does it is the criticism only valid when it takes into account when it focuses on a specific good? What if it does it generalize it? Like
Yeah, it
what if you were to
generalizes
generalize it in
any
money
number of goods.
itself? What if it were to simply do something? What it's a step in my direction in terms of money itself, a basket of goods. Does it still hold?
Yeah, I mean it still holds no matter what,
Your buying power,
how
your
many goods
pure
you buy.
buying power, just buying power.
Buying power?
Yeah.
You
Is
mean
demand for buying power ever positively slow? Yeah,
well,
positively slow.
what does that mean? Demand for money?
In other words, it's equivalent to saying that demand for demand for the primary objective is finite. You're essentially making you're essentially making a case that it's demand for utility is finite.
What do you mean demand for utility? Like that doesn't because in neoclassical theory, utility comes first. That determines your preferences, and then the preferences determine your demand. There's no demand for utility.
Okay, utility the way I'm using it is objective. It's not subjective, right?
Right.
So demand for a perfect omniscient being. Let's say if he had perfect omniscience, an actor,
So
and
you're
again,
saying
you're punished for it when you deviate. So it converges to it. All the time, nature's perfecting you.
Okay, so you're
I don't-
saying we demand like a certain allegiance to the primary objective function meta self.
So, somewhat, I think so. I think that's what I mean.
Okay, so
So you're forced to. You're forced to. I mean, and it eventually everything in existence over time converges to it, to that perfect demand curve. But the thing is, if it's not an equilibrium, it forces you to equilibrium. Right? There's always a tendency to go to equilibrium.
But getting to equilibrium could take a billion years. It might not happen
yeah,
now.
there's nothing in neoclassical theory that says or that says how we get to even equilibrium at all. It posits this idea of the Walrasian.
It also doesn't say anything about what equilibrium looks like in practical terms. So none of this is useful for analyzing the economy today.
So how does government intervention solve this?
Government could be a means to equilibrium.
What makes you think they have an advantage over individual actors? What form of government do you propose?
Sometimes individual actors are acting against, like, not in allegiance with their meta self or whatever, and the government can be a tool that forces them to do that.
Yeah. So
more.
Here's the problem, right? Everyone's meta self is unique, right? You can differentiate between any two meta selves.
But then you don't have negative demand curves.
Huh?
Then you don't have equilibrium if everyone's meta self is unique. You need one meta self, like one supreme meta self function.
So equilibrium is
converges
with
to.
respect to the actor, not society.
But then you don't get negative demand curves.
I mean,
If
you can
that's
have different equilibria. I mean, of course, you can have like Nash equilibria where all players are at equilibrium, and no one wants to move. But
Yeah, the SMD theorem also says that there can be any number of equilibrium points, and some of them are stable and some are not stable. So some of them, like, you'd have to be like right on that point, otherwise you'll be pushed off of it, and you'll go to.
You won't tend toward it.
Yeah, you won't tend toward it. You'll go away from it, and then there'll be other things that'll be like saddle points. So like if you come at it from certain initial conditions,
you'll slide one way.
You go towards it, but then from other initial conditions, you'll go away from it.
Yeah. It's still consistent because it's specifying the good. These properties manifest themselves when you unnecessarily break up the strong law of demand. Right? You can come up with all these arguments. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same argument against it, just like Giffen goods, right?
No, I mean this is more general than Giffen goods. This can be any number or any kind of goods.
I still don't think so. Ultimately, you're saying the SMD theorem is arguing for an upward sloping demand curve. Is that the case?
It's arguing they can take any shape at all.
They can take any polynomial shape.
Okay, let's just think about it rationally, right? What evolution would select for, right? Let's call utility serving the meta self existence, right?
No, but see, then you're doing the same thing you
just go with
us of doing.
Just humor me and let's go through this thought experiment, okay? Instead of just criticizing every little step so that I can't proceed. Let's just go through this. Allow me some leeway, please. Okay, so let's assume utility is that, right? Let's call utility whatever adds to the perpetuation of one's meta self, instances of the meta self, right? Why would nature reward any upward demand curve of this?
Well, regardless of your preferences,
it doesn't make sense, right? There's nothing to plot it against. Right?
No, what this is saying is like take any preferences whatsoever, preferences of the meta self or whatever. If you take those preferences and they follow the assumptions of rationality, completeness, transitivity, etc., then like that doesn't those assumptions which lead to individual demand curves sloping down have no consequences whatsoever for the market demand curve. Like if you just aggregate individuals, it doesn't inherit those properties. It doesn't inherit the properties of downward sloping demand curves.
It won't necessarily be upward sloping. It could be a sine curve. It could be a parabola. It could be anything.
So you can make the argument based on the individual, like the individual meta-self preferences or whatever, leading to an individual demand curve that slopes down. But what the S&D theorem is saying is that when you have a market full of individuals, like the market
Again,
demand curve is not going to take that shape necessarily.
Also, I forgot to mention, if you look at the definition of meta-self, anything is a meta-self, including a group of people. So when you analyze it as a group, right? When you analyze it as a society and an aggregate, when you construct the aggregate demand curve by adding all the individual demand curves, you can analyze it in terms of the society meta-self, and it still applies, right? It doesn't make sense for this society to have a upward sloping demand curve for utility. It doesn't make sense, in other words, to say that this rational society will want it to destroy itself. In other words,
this is why I like meta self has no meaning. Then it could be like anything. Like there could be the meta self of rocks or something.
Yeah.
No, yeah. What do you? Yeah. Like it means nothing, dude. This has no practical use. This says nothing about government.
It actually does, but it has less meaning for rocks because they're not actors. They're not self-motivated, but it still applies.
Sure, they are.
The analysis still applies. That's the power.
Physics motivates them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, nature selects for the rocks in existence at any point in time. Like it still applies, right? There's still even though.
It applies. It just doesn't have meaning. It doesn't tell you anything about what meta selves are doing.
Actually, it does, but no, it does. So the thing is, the analysis doesn't stop just because it's relatively useless relative to a human actor. But the fact that it does, it's still consistent, even with rocks, shows how consistent it is, right? This is a benefit. I mean, this is a virtue, not a vice, right? Being able to even explain what should happen for rocks.
But you're not explaining anything. You're just saying there's a meta self that does something. That's what you're saying. Ultimately, that is the content of your theory.
No, that's
misclassifying
it, right?
No, it's not.
That's misclassifying. That's totally misrepresenting the purpose of the. That's totally misrepresenting it. That's a little unfair. I mean.
No, it's not. No,
it's not. It says it.
I'm learning nothing from you right now.
No, it clarifies it. So with this ethic, you can rule out certain moral ethics.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't because you don't know.
Yes, you can.
You don't know what the ethics, have to do.
I know what I want to maximize, and it's even though it's hard to do it, it's utility, the way I defined it in terms of the primary objective. Right?
But you don't know what that function looks like. Like you don't know if government is part of that.
No, I can rule. So the thing is, right? You can rule out things. It's easy to sometimes you can rule things out, right?
No, you can't.
Yeah,
Not with what you've set up. No, it's too general to rule anything out. It's much too broad to rule out anything. You say so yourself. You say killing your child or whatever might sometimes be okay because of the meta self or whatever.
But when you show it through deadweight loss, right?
But the deadweight loss only exists if you assume equilibrium conditions are already met. If we're not in equilibrium,
no, it only assumes
there's nothing showing that we're going towards equilibrium, because all that neoclassical has is this idea of the Walrasian auctioneer, which obviously doesn't exist. There's no one yelling out prices and waiting until everyone agrees on prices before making a trade.
Perfect information, but that's not a complaint. It forces technology always advances toward it, and nature always punishes you.
You can't have perfect information.
It forces you to it. It
can't force you to it. It's impossible.
Yes, it does. It punishes you.
No.
It rewards people who are closest to it. You can't. Right?
You can't.
All things equal,
it's impossible with just information theory.
Dude, You're doing
From
these
information.
inverse errors, right? It
No,
does.
man, I'm not doing inverse errors. You're just
Look,
you're
look,
ignoring fucking
If there's-
empirical reality.
If
It's
there's
the
a group
same.
of people with a relatively better method of obtaining information versus this, all things equal, who's going to eventually survive and spread?
But you can't have a perfect set of information.
Did I say that? Did I say that in this
I
hypothetical or
said
not?
you can't have infinite information, and you can.
And am I saying that in this hypothetical or not?
No,
Then why you keep harping on it?
because it's relevant.
How is it relevant?
Because you can't have infinite information.
I want to do this thought experiment, and you won't answer, and you're bringing up an irrelevant thing.
The conditions of neoclassical, like
How's
the
it relevant?
Walrasian auctioneer
So
thing.
what's gonna happen?
The Walrasian auctioneer thing requires infinite information.
No,
It requires, yes, it
not
does.
my hypothetical. Not my hypothetical. I've given you a hypothetical, right? It has nothing to do with the Walrasian auctioneer. It has nothing to do with infinite information.
Demonstrate your point.
It actually has a little to do. It's implied in like everything's compared to infinite information, right? But not anything directly to do with infinite information, right? So one has a relatively better method of obtaining information. All things equal, what's going to happen?
What do you mean, all things equal?
Science controlled experiment. All other variables held constant. Come on.
But that's not reality. Like,
So you're saying science is not reality either. Controlled experiments. Not. You want to
No,
understand
because
mechanisms.
the difference.
You wanna understand-
Is,
No, there's no difference.
there is a difference.
Your goal is to
There's a
understand.
huge
how.
difference between what you're doing and what scientists actually do.
Would you just answer the hypothetical question? What
What
fucking
hypothetical
happens?
question?
A group, all things equal, has a better methodology, and so that means a higher probability of obtaining more and more accurate
I
information.
already agreed that was true, but that doesn't demonstrate your point.
What was true? What did you agree that was true? What would
I
happen?
agreed that a group with better information is better off.
Meaning the other group goes extinct, right?
Sure, but you still this doesn't prove that you have the SMD conditions that the Walrasian auctioneer thing holds.
Now keep doing the analysis. Now there's another group with even better information.
That doesn't follow. Like, you can't.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't, dude.
Okay, within this,
There's limitations.
you think it's static? You think
No, because
guys
when
won't
you
deviate
can't
from
keep-
them? And,
you
keep,
can't-
and then nature will keep selecting and
But
selecting.
you can't.
And
But
selecting.
then you're no longer holding everything else fixed. The assumption of this experiment was that everything else is held fixed.
Absolutely not. No. It's an iterative process. Not that I'm violating ceteris paribus. It's an iterative game, right?
But then you're
Next
not.
step.
Then you said, dude. You said.
Within this group, so let me do it. Let me set up well-defined barriers, right? In the first iteration, let's quantify. So anyone below 50, let's put just an index of information gathering, index of 50, which is an objective standard now, a standardized standard. Now, so that means there is a wide range of people below 50 that have different indexes relative to the index, right? And everyone above 50, let's say it's indexed to a perfect 100.
Okay, so what's gonna happen?
Nature's going to keep selecting within that continuum.
And what's gonna happen?
It converges to 100.
To 100.
Percent.
100 of what?
Perfect information, right?
So we're
Does
going to
who-
converge to perfect information, is what you're saying?
What's that?
We're converging to perfect information because otherwise we'll go.
Of course. Just look at technology.
No, but how do you know that? Like,
What's
how do you
that?
know we're converging there?
That's mathematical proof. I just showed it.
It's not an empirical proof.
It isn't?
No.
Our body of knowledge isn't improving?
But that doesn't mean it's converging to infinity. It converged to some bounded number.
So there's
Yeah,
a
I mean,
largest. There's a largest.
If you think about
So,
like the,
okay,
the,
let's-
the
let's
capacities
assume-
of the
let's-
human
yeah, it
brain,
Wait. He said a claim. Let's assume there's a largest information we'll ever have. So at that point in time, it'll never progress,
Yeah. It could converge
You sure about that?
asymptotically.
or
to-
it'll converge asymptotically to 100. But you just said there's a largest number. There's a large number. It's bounded. You said, right? So
yeah, it could
asymptotic-
converge to a number.
And that number's 100.
No,
What's
not percentage-wise. Like, it can converge to some percentage less than 100.
Give me a break. The limit as time goes to infinity is 100, right? Give me that at least.
Why?
What? Time is infinite. We can assume that as an axiom, right?
But this doesn't just depend on time. This depends on the laws of physics.
Oh, come on!
Yeah, there's only so much information that can.
Oh, come on! Physics is relevant. Oh God, how unfair am I for pointing out that the laws of physics are relevant?
No. You're like anytime you're backed into a corner, you're gonna call out quantum mechanics, and that's what I claim you're doing again. But anyways, what were you saying, Mike?
It's valid.
No, it isn't. No,
Yes,
it isn't.
It is.
You're counting on our ignorance of it, right? So we can't verify if you're misrepresenting.
All right, I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
You were saying something, Mike?
I mean, like, I don't think that information will go to infinity. I mean, for one thing, there's a hard limit on like just how much information we can fit into our brains. Like in terms of the objective function, I think that would be so complicated that no human could ever understand it, or
what
no
about cybernetic
humans could ever
implants?
understand it.
Yeah, no, he thinks that we like our meta self, the human meta self's gonna live on in like machines and stuff.
No, I never said that, did I?
No, I mean when we were talking about the what's this word?
No.
Yeah, trans something.
Transhumanist?
Yeah, something like yeah, the singularity, right?
That's AI versus humanity, right? That's
Yeah,
not
but you say
necessarily-
that the human meta self could go on in AI.
Did I say that? I forgot
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
did, but sure. I mean, that's cool.
I mean, because you made like we're like if there was a super intelligence, and there was a choice between ending
It's kind of
humanity or
ridiculous
ending the
to
super
say,
intelligence.
right? Mike's ultimately saying there's a limit to intelligence, and if that limit is, and it isn't 100.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
I'm saying not only is there a limit to intelligence, but I think that
It's a tall claim.
I don't think we'll necessarily go to that limit, because I don't think that information is the only thing that people care about. I think that there's other things that people care about besides information. Otherwise, we would just spend all of our time.
Of course.
No, but
Again, I have a primary objective, right?
The claim he's gonna make is that evolution is gonna select for the people who care about sort of perfect.
No, given whatever boundaries you're constrained on, whatever budgetary or evolutionary constraints that's put on you at any point in time, it selects for the people who best maximize the set of strategies they have. It always does. I don't think you guys keep fighting me on this. It's so intuitive.
Okay, but consider like aggression itself, right? Like we have a certain aggressive, in addition to our tendency to like want to seek knowledge or truth or whatever, some people have like a higher drive towards aggression, right? So couldn't that also be a thing that's selected for, like in terms of like just people aggressively just killing anyone that disagrees with them? And then it wouldn't even matter what the truth is, because then you just kill them and then you propagate your species or whatever.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to invoke cooperation as an opportunity cost to aggression, right? And then I'm going to invoke the law of comparative advantage and specialization in mutually beneficial trade, right? So this is always going to be an opportunity cost staring you in the face. So you can give me the fact that no one can survive on their own. I mean, well, yeah, they can, but the population would decrease to it would be decimated, right? If there was no trade. I mean, shit. I mean, it's scary to think how decimated it would get.
Probably.
So okay, so you agree? Even an aggressor has to trade with somebody, right? Someone totally agree to that, right?
I mean, I guess there are maybe possible economies where, like, trade is not the primary thing. It could be. I mean, you could have a command economy. Like, I'm just imagining, like.
How did that work out?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't. I mean, it functioned. It wasn't as good as a market, but it managed. Like, the Soviet Union managed to survive for what, 70, 80 years or something.
And it collapsed horribly, right? And you had shortages and surpluses, and you found a lot of instances where the goods they were producing were worth less than the resources that went into it. Is this what you're advocating? An alternative to free market?
But like it still like functions on some level, is all I'm saying.
Sure, any system functions.
The goods they were producing weren't worth less than they put in.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. They're losing
they
money,
weren't.
and that's ultimately my argument against government. Why it cannot act efficiently, because its components are meta self-interested. So when they try to act as a group, you're claiming that this group is trying to act in the best interest of other meta selves, not even the group's meta self, not even. So the government's not interested in making a profit.
But meta selves aren't like mutually exclusive from each other. You can act in the interest of another meta self.
They're not. Now the thing is, they're not mutually exclusive, but they are different, and that's the key.
No,
that's the
not
key.
necessarily, actually.
Necessarily.
No, you can describe Mike's meta self, like you can describe me entirely from Mike's meta self.
But you have descriptors again.
No, I don't. That's the thing. I don't. Like I don't have any descriptors.
Are two intersecting sets necessarily the same?
That's the thing, is that they could all just intersect perfectly.
Again, look at my definition of meta self.
Yeah, your definition isn't rigorous, dude.
It's rigorous enough to apply this.
No, it's not rigorous enough, and I'm honestly losing patience. Like this is a fucking waste of time.
I can even prove it, right? It's a small. Use your criticism to show how the analysis doesn't apply. Then
I don't care. Like I stopped.
That's because it doesn't apply, right? Me and Mike are different, right? We're different meta selves because I have descriptors that Mike doesn't. I'm Filipino. Is Mike Filipino?
I don't think so.
No, but that's not. You can describe.
That's enough. That's enough to know that we're not.
You can describe like.
Yes, we have. We intersect. But are two intersecting sets necessarily the same?
You can listen to me. You can describe like Mike's meta self as Mike is now talking to a Filipino guy named Brian, and then that could include your meta self.
What? That doesn't define as meta. That defines as meta self, but that doesn't define my meta self.
Yes, it does.
I'm not talking to a Filipino guy.
Every descriptor. Yeah, but it can. Every descriptor can just include information about you.
Yes, he's talking to a Filipino guy. Another descriptor is added there for specificity.
Yeah, but it's a descriptor of both.
I'm talking to an American guy.
No, but it's a descriptor of both you and him.
Hmm? I'm also American though. But what?
It's a descriptor of both of you.
Sure, we share descriptors, but again, look at the definition of meta self.
All
descriptors,
you don't
right?
Understand you don't understand your own definition. It could include.
Yeah, dude, fuck that. Don't fucking just call that shit out. And
I am gonna call that shit out because you don't understand. You don't understand your own definition.
That contains all descriptors, right?
Yeah.
All descriptors, right? Any
that's uncountably many
is in that set.
So
the fact that I'm Filipino is in my meta self set, right?
Mike is talking to a Filipino
guy. It's not in his descriptor set.
No,
they can
intersect perfectly. Like.
That's exactly why our action should never align perfectly. It'll never align perfectly, and this is a standard you cannot call upon. Actors should not act perfectly in alignment. You won't. It's not universal in that respect, but it's universal in a general respect. Like you say, the fact that we're both under evolutionary pressure.
I could just say, like, I can describe the entire universe with Mike as my fixed point, and I can describe the entire universe with you as my fixed point, and those two sets are identical.
Yes.
And those are your meta selves. So yes, they are entirely the same.
No, so for some purpose of analysis, they yield the same conclusions, but they're not the same. They're not the same conceptual set.
Okay, well, why do I? Well, then fuck your definition.
Because your standard point of reference is different in each of those.
Who cares? You're still using all the information. Why have this like
all descriptors, including the standard point of reference? It changes the definition of those two meta selves you just talked about.
Why do we need that?
You want to be, when you're talking about shit, you want to be able to differentiate. That's the whole.
Why?
That's the whole purpose of knowledge.
Why do you want to differentiate?
Objects you run into reality.
Unify everything rather than.
You want to conflate everything? Is that what a smart discipline? Is that what science does?
You're trying to generalize.
See, no, I'm trying to establish certainty by generalizing. I cannot do that without generalizing first. Then probably work to specificity. You start from the general, then you go to specific. Isn't that? You learn general relativity, then you learn special relativity in general.
Yeah, you learn specific first, then you learn general. In math, you generalize after you learn specific things.
There's something weird there because we go from the individual to the.
No, we don't. We don't go from the individual to the. We learn the specifics, and then we go to the general things.
No, we learn the easier ones, right? So again, it's different. It's different the way it's different. It's just like it's not analogous to that. It's analogous to a statistical confidence interval.
Analogous to that. We
It's
learn specifics.
Okay. Do you acknowledge that confidence intervals lose accuracy?
No, I'm not listening to this. Like, I'm done. Mike, you can argue with him.
Yeah, I just want to say a Nietzsche quote. Okay, in single rare cases, such a will to truth, some extravagant and adventurous spirit, a metaphysical ambition to hold an isolated post, may really be involved. Something in which, in the end, prefers a handful of certainty to an entire wagon full of beautiful possibilities. There may even be Puritan fanatics of conscience who prefer to lie down and die on a certain nothing than on an uncertain something. And that's where I'm coming from. I don't believe in the certainty.
That describes Brian perfectly. A certain nothing.
Yeah, I just don't. I believe in the beautiful possibilities. I don't believe in the certain handful of nothing. And that's what it comes down to.
If science really believed that, we would go nowhere.
I mean, I think science is like, when it comes to human affairs, there's more than just science. I don't think that you can just derive everything based on first principles.
As far as knowledge is concerned, you think
you're going to get infinite information, Mike, because
what's the substitute for science when it comes to knowledge?
Basically, thinking, philosophy, critical thought.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that's not a valid substitute. There's a reason why philosophy is going extinct.
Because I don't think it's going extinct, but
I don't think
because all the good stuff becomes its own discipline. Like already, it's like philosophy is the residue now.
But it's an infinite well. It's not going to go extinct completely.
You know, it's going to zero though.
It's not.
That shows how inferior it is.
There's always going to be like infinitely many questions.
No, but it's decreasing, right? It's decreasing relative to where it was in the past.
I get it. Could converge to above zero.
Yeah, but you're making this is the emotion argument again.
No, it's not.
Yes,
even
it's kind of like it. It's analogous to it.
And scientifically, human beings, like our brain is 100 billion neurons, right? That's as many stars as there are in the galaxy, as many galaxies as there are in the universe. And the possible combinations of neurons is like probably uncountably infinite, or I mean not infinite, but some very, very large number. I don't think that, and then when you combine the interactions between different people, that there's just way too many variables. It's just like
you're looking at it from a human perspective.
Science can never even possibly hope to drive what people are going to do objectively.
You're looking at the human perspective.
Like, how dare you look at it from a human perspective? How dare you be human, not omniscient like Brian?
See this? You're appealing to emotion by presenting it that way. I knew you're going to go there.
That's what it is.
No,
you're omniscient.
Looking at it from an imperfect perspective.
You think you're omniscient every time.
You don't have optimum goals, right? The goal you're arguing, it's somewhat an argument for complacency. Somewhat.
No, I'm arguing for thinking on a more macro level. Like you want to micro-found everything. You want to have everything go down to the tiniest micro foundations. But what Tenuous and I think believe is that there are certain macro trends and certain emergent properties that you can talk about without having to go all the way down to the smallest possible level.
I'm actually not talking about. I'm talking about general meta-selves, and it's not restricted to the individual. A meta-self analysis again includes, so it's more general. It's actually on a macro. It's actually as macro as you can get by talking about the meta-self, which it doesn't restrict it to an individual. Look at the set. Look at the definition.
Brian, I'm honestly gonna regardless of what we say here, I'm seriously not gonna ever have these discussions with you if you keep using this term meta-self. It has no meaning. You haven't given it a meaning.
It does.
Well, I'm not going to listen to you if you use it.
No,
it has no meaning to me. I don't understand it. Okay?
It does, and you're okay. Or do you hold yourself to the same standard? Are all the terms you use as even close to rigorous as what I've just presented?
No,
Name one term you use in your philosophy that's more rigorous than this.
they're
Please.
not as rigorous. They
Are you
can't-
holding me to a different standard than you hold to yourself?
No.
You sure?
I'm saying
Then
you
present
should
me
have- I'm saying you
present
should
me
have my
one term, just one, out of all the terms you use in your philosophy that's more well defined than that.
It doesn't
that
have
you
to be
created.
more well defined than that.
Yes, it does.
No, it
'Cause
doesn't.
Otherwise, your criticism.
Actually, like a set is more.
Again, this is
It's
the
a
inverse
set.
fallacy. You're complaining that since it's not perfect, it's useless.
No, no, that's not why. Like
You sure?
it's completely.
Are you telling me to throw away this definition?
Yeah,
You're-
I'm asking you to speak about useful things rather than useless.
It has no use in analysis, I should say. You're asking me
Doesn't
to
have
work
any
on it
use to me. I
because
don't understand it. It's gibberish. It's gibberish. It's verbiage. It's
show
like,
me.
you might
a
as well
term-
say like
show me
verbal
an original
overload.
term in your philosophy that is not gibberish.
There are
more
no
gibberish,
original terms in my
that is
philosophy.
less gibberish than this.
We're not. I
That's
mean,
all-
like
that's all I'm
this
asking.
isn't even relevant. Like I'm not.
That's
You
relevant.
don't know what my philosophy is. I'm not coming in here.
I'm
and
asking you to
contesting my
present
philosophy.
one.
A more rigorous term. Well, what if I don't
Isn't
have
this
a
a
more
fair
rigorous
challenge,
term?
Mike? Can I ask
No,
you?
it's
Can I
not.
give him a fair challenge? He's
I mean,
criticizing the usefulness of this term. He's saying it has zero use in analysis because it's not perfectly well defined, right?
I don't really see like the connection.
It's his criticism.
But-
I'm addressing his specific criticism at this moment. He's criticizing my definition of meta-self right now, right? So he's
Okay,
saying it has zero use in analysis at this point.
It doesn't really have any meaning to me. I mean, I don't really see what that means. Like,
Yeah.
and
that's what I'm
it doesn't.
saying.
It's not meaningful to my experience as far as I can tell.
Like I'm not learning anything from it. It doesn't mean anything.
I haven't even just you presented it correctly, right? In your perspective. But the thing is, I haven't even shown you my perspective of why I see there's meaning, which might be valid, right? And so he's making the claim that it's totally useless. And I'm not even
Until-
so he wants to proceed using another procedure, right? So I'm asking him, show me something in your philosophy, a term you've coined, right? A definition, a concept you've discovered, right? Like I
I
said.
haven't really coined any terms.
Exactly. And so even show me
Exactly what?
Show me a philosophical term you've even adopted that's more rigorous than this.
I don't have to. I don't have to do that.
Why not? Then you're
Because
holding
I don't.
yourself to
Because
different
I
standards.
don't. I understand those terms.
You're ridiculing me.
I'm not ridiculing you. I'm
all of
telling
your
you,
language.
I don't want to hear this because I don't understand what this means.
All of your language when you talk about your argument for government is based on even worse terms.
What argument for government have I made? I've never come out.
Whatever
made a
that
video
argument
like,
is. Okay. Whatever
this is why
your
we need government. Blah blah blah. I've never
whatever
done-
your argument for any government is, can you present me a term in there that's more rigorous than this?
I don't have to do that.
You could
I don't
won
have
by,
to
you
do
could have
that.
won by saying, well, actually,
No, I don't have to do that. I don't understand what this word means.
like even the accepted definition of government we presented, that's less rigorous than what I presented here.
I don't. Yeah, sure. Then everything is non-rigorous. Welcome to philosophy.
See what type of standard he's holding me to, Mike?
See, like the thing is, I don't believe in
He's
this.
accepted government, but he won't accept meta-self. Based on rigor.
Yeah, nobody in this
Contradiction.
conversation.
There's a contradiction there.
Nobody in this conversation has accepted meta-self, dude.
No,
You're
did
the
you
only-
accept government or not?
What do you mean accept? No,
It's a
actually,
yes or
I
no
didn't.
question.
I just play along because whatever. I don't like.
But you won't play along with
taking it
meta-self.
serious.
Is that correct?
I did play along, and now I'm going back to the fact that I don't like this definition, which I already told you.
Now, do you dislike the definition of government for the same reason?
Yeah, it's also not well defined. Aggression's not well defined.
Where can you start to make an argument for government then? What term are you going to build off of?
I don't know.
That-
I haven't figured that out. But I mean, it's not like
Wow.
your approach
Okay,
is
then.
wrong.
Your
I
case
think
is
that-
also just as as
See, the thing is, it's better to
empathy.
say I don't know than to articulate something that's not correct. I would rather say I
How
really
do you
don't
know?
know.
No, the thing is, I'm proposing something which requires analysis,
I
right?
think
I,
like
I'm proposing something that I think, yeah, and then, but I'm putting it out there for examination. Now, the standard of examination should be fair, right? If you're going to present an alternative to this, it must stand your same criticisms you throw my way.
I would say it's better to not have any theory at all than to have a bad theory. I would just rather just not have one.
yeah, I would agree.
No, but no. Here's the thing, right? There's a certain set of possibilities, right? So there's a spectrum of optimum government, which ranges from 0 to 100% of the, right? You consider all of them, right?
This is a waste of time. Like
So,
this has been going on for 2 hours.
The first thing you want to do is analyze the extremes, right? Obviously, 100%. I think we're all in agreement here, at least on that. 100%. No, right? Not optimum for any meta-self, probably, right? Right? We can agree to that, right? 100% no.
100%. I don't think that I don't really think of it that way. I mean, what if government is not just a one-dimensional thing that's just 0 to 100%?
A command economy, I think. I think that's the definition of 100%.
Yeah, you just
Pure control over every action that we do.
oh,
It's both impossible and impractical. It's both inefficient and impossible.
But what about the other dimensions of government, though? I mean,
Exactly. And then so I'm giving you guys the argument of everything else in between, while I'm arguing 0. And in order to do that, all I have to do is show a contradiction. But in order to have that contradiction, I need a primary objective.
How long is this gonna keep going?
I think my patience
It's
is
almost
wearing
done
thin a little
now.
bit.
There's nothing to say. Like there's nothing we can say.
Adam, where the fuck were you?
I don't know. I mean, this always happens with you. Like,
Yeah, this is
I
what
know,
happens.
but
I don't understand why you cannot agree on a motion and just present the different sides for that
Who
motion.
me?
Like, if you're gonna,
What
that's what
motion was
debates are. Right?
presented there?
I don't know. Just say, for example, like, post-Keynesianism is wrong about X or whatever, or right about X, and then each of you presented the case or whatever. Like, why is that not possible with you?
It was.
We have to agree on the definitions perfectly. That's why.
We were considering. We weren't arguing. None of us has a post-Keynesian. I don't understand. The analogy doesn't give me any. Doesn't help me understand anything. You used something that was irrelevant because no one took that case. Oh, well, actually,
Whatever, neo-Keynesian.
I'm
whatever.
thinking of 100%
No,
government.
I mean,
I'm thinking of 100% government. Actually, Tenuous is post-Keynesian.
I'm not post anything. I'm just saying post Keynesians have had the best track record.
Okay, how? In what way?
They
were
predicted
able-
the recession.
Yeah.
Oh, and the crazy dude Peter Schiff did, and the Austrians did too with their ABC.
Or the neoclassicals didn't.
How do you know? How do you know there wasn't one guy? So the thing is, it's not restricted to the people who call themselves. The discipline isn't restricted to the people who are acolytes of it or whatever you want to say, right? That's fair to say, right? It's an objective. I mean, if there's
Why would I listen to people who
Like-
got it wrong?
like physics isn't restricted to Michio Kaku.
Why would I listen to people who got it wrong?
Who got it wrong? The Keynesians or the
The
classicalists?
Both of them got it. Neither of them saw it. I mean, the new Keynesians.
No, you're
class-
saying now. The thing is, you're looking at individuals, right? And you're attributing an entire class of even the fringe portion of economics. So even Austrians on the fringe, right?
This is so stupid.
No, Austrians predicted this, right, Adam? Even Peter Schiff, right? Who's more vocal about it than Key.
Well, Austrians are
I
always.
mean, that's the
predicting it.
claim
They're
they
like-
make or whatever.
They're always.
But the
predicting
Austrians are wrong about other things that are. They don't use any
and
math
Keen isn't.
for one.
And Keen-
Whereas the
standard.
post-Keynesians do.
Adam, you gotta defend me. These guys are using different standards. They're holding.
No, but like they don't like they haven't made a case for government, but they don't have to make a case for government to say your case has problems, right? But like, I mean, that's what's happening.
What?
Like, they can have criticisms and not an alternative at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
No.
even keen to like argue for government anyway, because I consider myself kind of like a
No, but I
anarchist,
mean,
morally.
I guess what Brian is thinking
Well,
of is that
Because I'm
you
not
need a,
making the case it's perfect. If I was making the case it's perfect, that's valid, Adam.
yeah, and also what I
I'm
think you're
saying it's
thinking
the
of
best
is that,
alternative. If
yeah,
it's
okay, so yeah, that's what he's saying. Like, you need a
if I
candidate to
make
be a
that claim,
candidate.
you must present a better alternative to disprove that. A better alternative
No,
exists. In other
no,
words,
you
right?
don't.
Oh God, that's the negation of that claim, is it not?
Like, that's just things aren't working. Things don't work the way you think they do.
What? This is just logic, man.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's
You
not just
don't
logic.
just have. You don't have like X and then, like, we're not
You gotta
proving
be
not
kidding
X
me.
here.
We're
Like,
we're talking about logical process of arguments. We're talking about argumentation itself, right? I
and
am
formal
making
arguments aren't logical
I am
inherently.
making the claim that free market anarchism is your best alternative at any point in time, right? And so
I'm not like. I don't
You
want to
are
do this anymore.
what's the
Mike,
negation of that?
Go argue with him. I don't want to.
What's the negation of that statement? Anybody at any point in time that
The negation of what statement?
free market anarchism is the best alternative at any point in time for with
That
respect to with
some
respect to
other
the
alternative is the better.
The negation is free market anarchism is not the best alternative.
Right.
That's the
It
negation,
could be.
right?
No, but it's when ever, right? At any point in time.
No. See, no, you're adding dimension to it now.
No. It's an. I said
This is
at all
bullshit.
points.
This is such bullshit.
No, I'm just adding something that clarifies it, right? So
No, you're not. You're fucking
Yeah,
pulling
dude,
shit out of
dude,
your
dude, I
ass
can-
and calling
here.
it rigorous. I'm not. This
Dude,
is
okay,
bullshit.
mine's universal. I said for all time. So that means there exists a point in time when government, when they're a positive form of government is optimal. That's the negation of my claim. There exists a point in time because I said for all points in time, anarchism, free market anarchism is the best thing, right?
Yeah,
So-
the negation is free market anarchism is not the best thing at all
Or
points in time.
not the best thing at a single point in time, at least. if not
Yes,
more
yeah,
points
there
in
exists
time.
a point in time where the optimal form of government is non-zero, is positive, right? So all you have to do, but the problem is, I'm going to point to monopoly, and essentially you're arguing for monopoly, and I'm going to point to deadweight loss.
Yeah, you see, but
You're gonna
that
put the
requires
S&P
supply and demand, and they think that's not correct or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we had issues with the supply and demand theory that you're proposing,
It's-
and also
it's the
there's a
it's
whole
the
thing that
best-
we haven't even touched yet, which is welfare economics, which the whole argument of deadweight loss depends on this argument of welfare economics and Pareto optimality, which like Tenuous and I have a problem with. But
Yeah.
we're probably too tired to talk about that right now.
Yeah,
I'm not tired. I'm just like, I'm gonna say, like,
frustrated.
there's no point in arguing with Brian because he's anti-empirical.
Absolutely not, man. You're not doing it rigorously though. I mean,
Nobody is. That's
and
not
your
how things
your
work.
standards are switching when you're criticizing me versus looking at your own argument, right?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't
Because you
matter.
must necessarily take the negation of,
Like,
of my argument to criticize it.
You're trying to be rigorous, but you can't be rigorous about, like, in an informal argument, and so you're running into contradictions. And then whenever you find one, you're like, oh no, this is what I meant. I meant for all points in time, and then you try to give it dimension, and it's
What are you
just
talking about? I didn't
this
do
is a
that.
dead end.
I didn't do that.
Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
No,
it
I
seems
didn't
like
do that. He misclassified what I just did, and you can't agree with that and be logically correct. I did
You
not.
can't
do that.
agree with that, Mike. You can't agree with that.
I clarified what the negation was.
Brian has declared.
I clarified what the negation was, not what you thought the negation was.
I don't feel like we've made any progress on whether the free market is good or not.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we
Adam-
solved epistemology.
But again, I'm gonna put the deadweight loss of monopoly on there, right? The fact that it charges, it fits the criteria of providing inferior goods at lower quantities at higher prices. Can you point to me where government efficiently provides a good that the free market wouldn't have?
Adam, question: how many times have you had discussions like this with Brian?
Well, the thing is, in the chats we frequent, we're usually on the same side, and we're not arguing about ego, whatever the hell.
I'm usually criticizing Austrian economics.
See, like, Mike and I could have this discussion with you because we seem to have like the same understanding of like epistemology and how this.
I would like to try to have the debate with Mike because you're just like muddying the water where it made it hard for me just to walk.
I mean, the thing is, I don't have the training on economics that probably either of you guys have. So on that front, I'm kind of lost. But like, I can make the case I have for no government and sort of property norms or whatever. But another thing is,
it's not as
I think
rigorous
we also have like a closer idea of what morality is than sort of KK's
No, you don't.
game
I have the
theory
same
optimal
one.
strategy.
Okay, so
thing.
you would agree, at least on the morality discussion, morality is generally defined as right and wrong, a partition of action into right and wrong.
Yes. Okay. So
But everyone has their own definition of right and wrong. There's several.
But they are like within a realm that is different from
No, they
game
aren't.
theory optimal. Yes, they are. Like for most people, there is such a thing as a prescriptive statement without an if, right? So for most people, there are some things that are just wrong. End of discussion, right?
Okay. So again, I can prove that for any categorical comparative, you can arbitrarily impose an if on there, a conditional statement. Just the fact that you exist, right, is an if. I mean,
I actually see this is like why I kind of bothered with Brian is because I am a consequentialist. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I'm a consequentialist as well.
But I don't agree with this bottom-up, like trying to be rigorous about everything approach. It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, like think about this, Brian. Like every I don't know, like 99% of like axiomatic arguments throughout history have been wrong. Like just probabilistically, you're probably wrong.
Yeah.
No evidence. I don't understand the argument. What? 99% of what? Axiomatic arguments are wrong?
Yeah, like like.
Oh, you mean people who?
Aristotle and stuff.
You mean people who just posit something? Conjectures? You mean?
Yeah.
Conjectures
like
versus scientific axiom, or?
Like many like serious thinkers throughout history have said they had definitive proof of a bunch of claims, and they are all wrong, right? Like axiomatic arguments are very tenuous. I'm not trying to make a pun or anything.
Very tenuous.
Yeah, they're very tenuous. Like, there are a lot of perils with axiomatic thinking, and I think it has to do with this like fascination with Euclid's elements.
I understand that it's unlikely that I've solved morality. I think I did, but
then why are you trying to convince us?
No, I think I have solved it in general. And it's not in the same way as it's actually general is actually specific relativity.
I mean, you have something there, but it's not what people consider morality, though.
It doesn't matter.
But I don't mean a difference in content. I mean a difference in domain completely.
But I don't care what other people think. Is it in perfect accordance with evolution? Yes or no?
Okay, but morality, like evolution, has nothing to do with morality for everyone else.
I don't care what other people think.
It doesn't matter. Subjective morality does not matter. We are exploring the possibility of an objective morality, aren't we?
I don't care what other people think. I'm Brian. I'm always right. I don't care what.
You gotta be kidding me. We're not talking about subjective morality. We're talking about if there exists an objective morality. We're talking about pursuit of truth, right? Mm-hmm. But this objective morality might be relative, right?
I don't think that there's an objective morality.
Not completely objective.
No, but you might be using objective in a different way, right? So it's different to say that the strategy to the objective might be different, right? I think that's what you mean by what you just said, right, Mike? Like we might share a general goal, but each of our strategies might be different to it.
I think there's only the goals that we construct for ourselves, either collectively or individually.
We construct for ourselves. Did you say?
We could call that objective, though. We could just define that to be objective.
If you look at it from any knowledge of myself, it's always to perpetuate instances of the meta self, and that's in accordance with any.
I think we have the existential freedom to define any goal that we want to. individually or collectively.
But you're not free to define the consequences that come after adopting such objective.
But
People don't care,
we're free to disregard the
And
consequences.
nature doesn't care if you care.
Yeah, like people who have their own objectives are gonna go extinct, like as opposed to the people who think of ego-utilitarianism or whatever. But people don't care.
The
Like
thing
it's not a.
The thing
You
is,
can have the collective goal of like all committing suicide tomorrow, and that could be a valid goal. Let's all
You've
commit
told me
suicide
this,
tomorrow.
Adam, before.
thing is,
What
Yeah,
my
but like
response?
they're only wrong if we assume you're correct, from the get-go. Which I'm not sure. Like
Existence is the ultimate adjudicator of who's right and wrong.
I think we like Brian could be the one who goes extinct here. Like he's the one who's most likely to go extinct here
Well,
because
he
his
doesn't care about what
theory
other
is
people think.
very unconvincing to anyone.
No, it accounts for that too, right? If people dislike it so much they murder me, but it's right in the
No,
end.
not murder you. You're just gonna not convince anyone, and then you're gonna die alone.
Yeah, for whatever reason, for whatever short-term reason, it kills off my physical body or something. But the thing about it is, even but if it's eventually right, if it's perfectly in accordance with evolution, it must be eventually right. Even though it might kill off my
I
physical
mean, part
self,
of it might be eventually right, but
actually my meta self of that
economic
philosophy
part
will
won't.
be alive. It must be alive if it's correct.
the economics part won't live on because that's the part that's wrong.
No, again,
Amongst other things, neither will the approach.
you can't get around you can't get around the deadweight loss of monopoly, the deadweight loss of taxation, and the deadweight loss of subsidy, which is the total mechanism of government spending.
All right, Brian, I'll agree with you in a sense. Like, I don't agree with any of the ways that you've devised the conclusion, but in some sense, I agree a little bit with the conclusion that I think that even though like our goals are something that we have the freedom to define, I think that over time, like basically certain moral ideas will win out over other moral ideas. I think that's probably true. And I think that like there may be some kind of convergence. I think Tenuous and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that form will take, but I mean I do share like a kind of general like anarchist perspective in that in the long term I don't think that government is the way to go.
It won't take the
there's
form.
Other ways.
It won't take the form of capitalism.
Yeah, but I think also capitalism is also another hierarchical structure.
You can't just jump to that. Though.
I mean, what do you mean by capitalism, though? I mean, I'm sorry if I'm Brian or whatever.
See?
Capitalism basically meaning a system based on the exploitation of labor.
Okay.
Define exploitation. If it's mutually beneficial, is it exploitation?
I wouldn't even say that. I'd say it's more private ownership of large assets.
Yeah.
The market's correct for hoarding. That's mercantilism.
Yeah, so like that's conceivably not at odds with market anarchism.
Yeah. Hoarding is punished if it's not profitable.
You have in society today. Well, I don't even.
No, you don't. You have government intervention. You're trying
to. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Like
he's going to try to analyze. He's going to try to blame a mixed economy, the failures of a mixed economy on the capitalist part. It's like pissing in my soup and calling my cooking shitty. That's what he's doing at this moment.
But I think the debate is getting late at this point.
Yeah.
I think that it's too much to go further right now.
I think we are the new Vienna Circle, honestly. No,
that's how it is with Brian. This is what he does.
No, don't blame this on me, man.
No, I am. I'm blaming it on you and your fucking disorder.
No, Mike, I'd like to have this debate with you again. Like, I think I was really like.
No, but like agree on a premise that you both that someone agrees with, and then the other one makes the case against it or whatever. Like, why is that so difficult? I couldn't even
set out a definition of my premise.
I mean, and why is that happening during the debate anyway?
What?
Sort of like setting definitions and stuff.
Yeah.
How can I explain my theory?
It's very tedious.
Like his theory that capitalism, he had to define capitalism.
Yeah, but you can let that emerge naturally in the debate.
Yeah, that was
I did.
Right?
I tried that, and then we came back to meta self again, and then we had to establish. I mean, I ultimately I need that if you're going to get super rigorous, right? And this is as far as
we didn't even establish what our basic positions were, because it seems like You were saying that I was going to argue for government, which is not even true because I'm more of like a left-leaning anarchist, anti-capitalist.
And I could honestly.
No, I didn't. I accepted your proposition that it's just a short-term solution to longer-term anarchy. I accepted that.
Yeah.
And then I accepted tenuous, that it's asymptotically impossible to get rid of government. What are you talking about? I never was against any of your arguments. I even formulated for you and said, yeah, okay, let's proceed. Now start validating your arguments.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to sign off pretty soon.
Yeah, okay.
I have some stuff to do.
I mean, I'd like to try this with you again in particular.
Yeah, why don't we try like a one-on-one sometime? We'll talk about like capitalism or something.
Yeah.
That's your funeral, Mike. Have fun with that.
Mike, have you ever been told that you are too tolerant?
Probably, yeah.
That's
Because
what
I
I
have
was
been told that like twice. And I don't know, I'm starting to think they were into something.
I'm
Have
serious.
you been told that, Adam?
Yeah, I have. That's why I'm asking.
You're too tolerant as well. You're both too tolerant. And then...
The criticisms levied by Tenuous were invalid. Invalid. He was holding me to a different standard than he holds even to himself.
Yes.
And that's my criticism.
Tenuous is invalid.
Yeah. That's a valid argument.
Tenuous theories is evil.
I presented a well-defined argument, and then yes. That's a perfect response to that. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's maybe it's possible to have like a normal debate with Brian, but like just have a more solid pre-debate, I guess.
Watch. Just let me try this with more.
It's not going to happen though.
It went well yesterday. It went fairly well.
Because
yesterday.
But that wasn't a debate though. That was like a conversation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Tenuous
That's
wasn't
actually kind of what I want. It's somewhat a debate. We did debate. I
you
mean,
want people to just agree with
but
you.
it's a pursuit for
from the
truth.
get-go. That's what you want.
They're not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, essentially we're searching for truth, so it is a discussion in essence. But point of topics that we already have biases toward is going to be debatable, right? And then we clarify. And I think we proceeded nicely yesterday. But Tenuous, I swear to God, man.
Because I'm not tolerant of like this.
So I have a question for Tenuous. Like your sort of dislike for large assets, does it have anything to do with Piketty and all that stuff?
What?
Or are you aware of Piketty and
Thomas
Piketty?
Yeah, are you aware of that?
Piketty? What is that?
Yeah, he's
I
an
guess-
economist that has researched a lot about inequality.
Okay. What does he say?
I haven't read his book, but I just know that he's like detailed empirically the vast amount of inequality that exists.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
I've never
like
heard
he
of
has a
him.
problem with large assets as well. So I was thinking maybe that's where you were coming from.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what school is he from, Mike?
I think he's neoclassical, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Is this like hoarding?
But that's kind of that's the thing is that they don't they don't agree on important things. Like this is more reason why neoclassical is not.
I mean, it's a social science, right?
Yeah, it's not a good. Well, I mean, neoclassical it's not a scientific model for analyzing the economy that we have.
It's too motivated by people's like preconceived ideologies, whether they're like social.
What discipline is it? Ultimately, what economic philosophy is it?
No, yeah, I agree.
Not
This an inherent problem
motivated.
with all social sciences.
So he's holding. You're criticizing it on a standard that you're not willing to apply to yourselves. I think Mike's less so, but Tenuous.
No, Mike's just
directing it to you.
dude. Mike is just calm and he's.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I'm directing it to you. I'm directing it to you, Tenuous.
calm and he hasn't had enough of you yet, so he's just pretending to play along. That's what's
Totally
happening.
choking his cat right now.
Like,
I'm
yeah,
serious, man.
like, he disagrees with every single
implanting
point.
in his head.
No, I'm not. You're not.
Yeah,
you're
I
not.
can't say
You're
I've been
not.
convinced by your derivation, Brian.
Anyway,
No, I don't expect you were, because I'm sure, but some of the Tenuous's presence had something to do with that. Not because his arguments were valid, because he was preventing me from progressing even to consider like just a simple thought experiment. And I couldn't even proceed through a thought experiment to see even my argument. I couldn't even put out my argument. I was stuck on a definition. I was stuck on the
I need to
consistency
go
of
to
the
the
definition.
bathroom again. Are we gonna wrap this up? Like,
Yeah, I think we should
Yeah,
probably
we can
wrap it up.
You can go. You can go, Tenuous.
all right.
But Mike, I mean, I'd like a chance with you again. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, sure, we'll do a one-on-one debate sometime.
and Adam, would you be opposed to Adam mediating? Because I think he's. I
Yeah.
know he's not taking my side. So.
Yeah, that's fair. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't want you thinking that I want to go 2-on-1 against you.
No, I mean,
I
I think
just want an adjudicator if there's a point of contention, if we need
okay.
to move on. Okay. Thanks, Mike. I'll contact you.
Okay. I'll sign off then.
Okay.
Okay.
Later, guys.
See you
Hey,
guys.
Adam.
Hey.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
You're welcome.
Damn you!
I mean, I don't see why you went that route, like, at all.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
I mean, you told me it was gonna be about neo-Keynesianism or whatever, so I was expecting him to make the case against supply and demand, and then you would like make your case. Like, I don't see why it always goes down to like the meta self and.
Oh, because the technicality of his argument of supply and demand. He's saying it can be take any shape, right? So all of this analysis, even Austrian ultimately relies on downward sloping and upward sloping curves, supply and demand and supply curves, right? Respectively. They all rely on this, and you don't even realize it, right? And ultimately, it's such an abstract, such a quantitative argument. It needs to be well defined, and when you take into account all goods, it takes away all it. I think, I don't know, I got to read more SMD theorem, but it takes away all of his all of these kinks or whatever, these weird forms of the demand curve, and he's talking about aggregate demand curve. So
yeah, and another thing though, like you were also like apparently debating the justification for a state, so that's like right away two debates at the same time.
wait, say that again. I was arguing.
Yeah, like you seem to be under the impression that we were gonna debate a justification for a state, and also the neo-Keynesian stuff. So like you know, I mean, because you have like such a huge problem focusing on one thing, like maybe just one at a time.
But essentially, it is. They're both of those arguments were fall into the realm of negation of my claim, which is I think your claim too, right? Zero optimum government at any point in time. Even
I mean, I guess your claim relies on sort of the ultimate objective, though.
it must. I mean, you're gonna run into the same dilemma in any situation using any foundational philosophy. You're gonna run into the same problems I am, except I can go further with it. This is the thing. You guys are always holding me to a higher standard, and sure, fine, but again, I'm not saying it'd be valid to end there and you win if I was saying my philosophy was perfect. Right? If I was making the claim that my philosophy is perfect and it doesn't even need refining, now I can make a general claim that it's perfect in a general way. Right? I have captured the essence in general, but not the strategy. I can identify the primary objective, but I don't know the perfect strategy to get to it. Right? And that's what I'm claiming.
You must think of a way of arguing for things that don't go back to like ego-utilitarianism, because that's where the huge roadblock is. Because just
no,
like,
why is that necessarily a problem?
I think you're not like, clear enough when explaining it, and then when there's any
That's what
criticism,
that's
like
what I have you
everything
for,
just
hopefully.
goes crazy.
That's what I was hoping you would jump in for to be my translator. If
I mean, but like, but
Maybe-
okay, so like I can explain the meta self, and then what? Like they're just gonna have further problems, and like it just never ends from that point in time.
no, he doesn't. But you have instinctual knowledge. You have instinctual feeling for logic. Did you see my complaints to his argumentation? I brought up valid criticism of his argumentation, his approach to disproving me or criticizing me, right? They were all valid. I mean, until you present, we're looking for truth here. We're looking for objective proof. That means, and it's based. If we don't have logical proof, it must be based on the preponderance of the evidence. Do you agree or not?
I mean, I don't think anyone disagrees with that.
Okay, so when I say mine's not perfect, meaning I don't have logical proof of mine, then it's preponderance of evidence. That means he must present a better alternative. And he's
I
failing
know.
to
Why
do
couldn't
that.
he do that though? Like,
Why didn't you object when that happened? I wish you could have interjected, because when you didn't interject, it felt like it gave him confidence to keep doing what he did.
I'm not
And
sure
it
that's what
felt
was
like
happening.
3-on-1 at that point. I was correct, but I was getting suffocated just by
No,
subjective
but
value
see,
there.
they didn't even make their case for the state though, because I mean, I guess they were also under the impression that that
Exactly, and
wasn't the
that's what I was
discussion.
calling them on.
No, but I thought the discussion was
And
about
then
like
Tenuous kept
neo-Keynesianism.
and then Tenuous kept turning it to personal attacks on me. And then there was just silence with no one backing me up, so it seemed like he was correct. So I was hoping you would have interjected, at least stop him from doing, like, addressing my criticisms, right? So I presented a criticism, and he totally just scoffed at it, and he got away with it. And I kept calling him, "You're not agreeing." Yeah, that's not what we're doing, Brian. It's all us, Brian. That's not a valid critic. That's not. And I took time to elaborate a criticism against them, right? If the objective that we thought we set was the pursuit of truth, the standard of
Oh,
proof.
okay, so that was the debate then, like just the pursuit of truth.
I think I mentioned it. I don't
I
think
mean, yeah, but can you see how that's a problem though? Like just practically, for a Google Hangout.
Again, it's not a problem if we realize the standard is not logical proof. It's preponderance of the evidence. There's no problem with that. What's the problem with that? We're saying it's not perfect.
Like
We're
where
going
do
with
we
the
even
best we
begin
have.
though? Like
What'd you say?
like it doesn't seem like something conducive to a productive debate.
Standard preponderance of the evidence?
No, like just setting the goal being the pursuit of truth.
Oh, come on. There's a qualifier there. There's a quantifier there. The
I
pursuit
mean, what
of
I'm saying
truth
is that you should make it
via
narrower. Yeah, I mean,
which
just for practicality's sake. I mean,
the
you could have
pursuit of truth.
said
Oh, come on.
the
But
pursuit of
you
truth
just
in the realm
misclassified
of
me.
neo-Keynesianism or whatever.
It doesn't matter what that part. But what was the standard of proof? Preponderance of the evidence, right? And then implicitly we agreed at that point we were talking about economics, so that was discussed. It was added to that. So it was pursuit of truth. And once we ditched defining shit. We said, okay, let's establish our argument. So implicitly it was augmented, the pursuit of truth, based upon the optimal, the pursuit of the truth of what's the optimal level of government, right?
See, but you didn't
Based
say
upon,
that before, though.
huh? We did. I think we
I'm not
did.
No.
I think I
Like the
mentioned
government thing,
the
like
government
just
thing.
came about like halfway in.
Yeah, but we settled on it. I even formulated our arguments, right? I
Yeah, but
asked.
it shouldn't start halfway in, though. Like that's why your chats don't go anywhere.
No, I'm serious. It's your guy. I know. Sure, you can use 3-on-1 as evidence against me, but I'm telling
I'm
you.
not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
Yeah, I
you're
think
making
you
a
are.
practical mistake. I'm not saying you're wrong or right about anything. I'm saying
Yeah,
there's a reason why your chats are
obviously,
not fruitful.
obviously, if my goal was to convince those guys, right? But that was not my goal. So the fallacy here is that you're assuming my goal was to convince those guys. My goal is, again, the pursuit of truth, right? Totally different. But I'm telling you, the debate. Watch this. Please, I invite you, attend the next debate with Mike. And even though I do tend to try to dominate a conversation, you know why I dominate conversation? Because I've worked harder at formulating my philosophy than they've worked at theirs. So it's only natural that it happens. It's not my personality. Actually, it is too, but you'll find that when I'm ignorant about a subject, I'm asking a lot of fucking questions, and they're not ones that try to just slow the person down, right? To prevent him from.
So like, what's gonna be next conversation then? Like, are you gonna agree on a
It's gonna be
topic at least?
It's gonna be economics with Mike Hugman on the same halfway topic.
You see, but that doesn't sound like a debate though.
In what way does it lack?
Like direction, like economics with Mike
Yeah, the
Hugman.
optimum level of government, right?
But what I'm saying though, that's not focused enough to produce like a
Or okay,
like a neat
here's
back and
here's
forth.
one enough. Is 0 the optimum level of government? Is that better?
Sure, and he must agree to like more than 0, but he doesn't agree with that though.
It's specific, but I postulated that was my position. So I even told them that their standard of proof was so low in order to just prove that there's a time that the optimal level of government wasn't zero or was positive. That's it. I've said it before, right? I don't know how focused you want me to get.
I mean, again, you sort of like introduced that in the middle of like after an hour.
But we were already at that was we switched methodologies at that point. But the thing is, I needed that part. That's why I kept going back to it. I think you're really influenced by Tenuous's scoffing.
What?
Like,
I mean, I'm not saying anything new. I'm sure you know. You're aware.
No. I'm sure I need someone rigorous. You know, I'm surprised that Tenuous has mathematical training, but he's not on topics. Like, I needed someone to verify what I was saying, all my criticisms. They're valid, every one of them. Were they not? I was not getting any feedback once I levied a criticism to any of his arguments. An argument against his argument. So he criticized me, and then I showed why it's still valid under preponderance of the evidence. And then I didn't hear a peep. Right? And then all of a sudden and then you guys keep harming me. It's not perfect. It's not perfect. Why pursue that? It's not perfect. Why pursue it? That's not the standard of proof. I don't know. Am I being redundant? Am I not getting something? You think still? And if
I think maybe part of what makes it worse, other than the debate not being focused, is that you're probably.
Do you think you can mediate like more aggressively then, like control the topics?
I mean, I guess no. But you see, that's the thing, right? Like if the topic is like super vague, like the pursuit of truth.
No, come on! Don't! Oh, you are misrepresenting. Are you kidding me? At the midway point, we added to that. Come on, it wasn't general like that. At first, it was. That was like the general. You set that out, of course. It's like you're augmenting the definition as we go. Then we augmented it very well defined in a well.
I mean, so like I said, like just like you said, okay. So like what's the optimal amount of government? Zero or more than zero? Okay, so I can keep a conversation focused on that topic, right? But I don't think we had that for this debate.
We didn't.
We didn't have a focus for sure.
Didn't I explicitly say that at one point though?
I mean, no. Like we started off like with like a bunch of weird definitions, and like no one really agreed. Which again was a weird approach to begin with.
You know why? I wanted to talk about general philosophy. If you look at
but it's more natural that when a concept comes up, you just ask them, "What do you mean by this?" instead of defining every single thing at the beginning.
No, I wasn't defining every single thing. Critical terms. That I was
mean, it seemed like too many though.
Too many? How many did I do actually? I just wanted to rehash determinism, and and after that was accepted yesterday, you saw how it was fought here, like how you saw how tenuous. You saw how Mike approached it yesterday versus.
I mean, no, but yesterday we didn't know anything about quantum physics though.
No, you see, but that's invalid, dude. I'm serious though.
I mean, I think you also like got carried away with that because like even Tenuous conceded that it doesn't make a difference in like the meat space.
Do you think that he wasn't misrepresenting quantum theory? Like
I'm not sure. Like how would I know?
Just from what you know. I'm asking your opinion. Asking your subjective
opinion.
Probably
knows way better than me, right?
No,
I mean,
of course,
you asked him, right? Like, I think like a very, very common intuition is to say like, is it the case that it's literally random, or are instruments like not accurate enough to determine determine what's going to happen? And you asked that, and he said that it's actually random. So I mean, he must know better than me.
No.
I mean, he's here, right? Like 10 years. Tell us about quantum physics.
Yeah, I'm still here.
No. But
yeah, it is completely random.
It is. I think you're misrepresenting it. Can you link me something?
Then learn about it. Like,
I
learn about it.
Paper here.
Dude, I can't.
Which
Like,
I
my
haven't
whole
read.
thing is
Meaning it's objectively random. Like nature is not determined in a. There's no mechanism that explains every single. Why are they looking for the? Why are they looking for the gut? Why are they looking for grand
Why don't you go ask
unification theory?
them?
You're the expert. You're the one who
Like,
brought it.
I tried to explain it to you, but you didn't understand. Like, there's
Can-
still an equation that tells you what happens to, like, these probability.
Sure, but it's conditional, right?
Yeah. Well, no. There's always a limit as to how much you can know
But it
a
was
particle's
formulated.
position and its momentum.
Yeah, and then you're deduced to a probability distribution, right? I'm assuming.
You have this wave function, which is a function of time and position.
Yeah.
And
It's a probability
when
distribution.
you have a
Over that,
solution,
right?
like it's a differential equation, you can solve the differential equation, have this wave function. If you integrate the wave function, like squared, the norm of the wave function squared, if you integrate that, that's like one of the norms in one of those function spaces, then you get the probability of
Distribution.
finding like the particle at a certain position.
Point in time right? So given
Yeah. So
you
that
have
is-
you have an equation that's limited to the variables of time thing, and it spits out a probability only, right? In other words, right?
No,
you,
the
you only have a
equation.
probability distribution. In other words,
What equation? There's
so the
three
end,
equations I mentioned.
no, your end product. What you've deduced when you solve the differential equation and integrate and stuff, right? You come with a probability distribution, right? So that inputs both two
Yeah.
coordinates, right?
But I
Time
mean,
and
but
time
it's
and position,
not. But it's
or
still.
whatever.
There's still a limitation on it, which is the more you know about one variable, the less you know about the other. Sorry, it's a function of momentum. It's a function of momentum as well. I forgot to mention that.
Is that the uncertainty principle?
Yeah. Heisenberg uncertainty.
And but does that have to do with the precision of instruments?
No, it's just like the very act of having the experiment, like.
The observer affects the result of the observation.
Yeah.
So that's just an ability to measure that's affecting any further progress.
Yeah, but this is an. Actually, no. I think it's I mean, no. Like, you can call it the ability to measure, but I mean, at that point, you get into the question of, like, what's the difference between reality and how we measure reality? Like.
Yeah, that's kind of like.
But how we
always the
measure
ultimate
reality.
question.
Yeah, but how we measure reality is the only thing we have.
Yes, I
in our
totally
measurements.
concede that. Our only link to the objective world is our senses, right? And our intelligence to process that raw data. Of course.
Like if you're not looking, which hole the electron goes through, it goes through both
Isn't that what
holes.
science is looking for? The objective truth, not regardless before the observer affects what you're trying to observe?
I explained what it is. If you're interested about the philosophy behind it, go read about it. That's it. Like, I'm not.
I really think I cornered you there, and then you're getting out by just saying go read about it.
Yeah, because there's flaws in your there's holes in your knowledge of these things, Brian. You don't know everything.
About the hole I'm creating there.
What?
It sounds like to me it's a measurement incapability, not so the objective looks like you're trying to research an objective mechanical law. You're trying to find out, but the thing is, when you do experiments, you affect your data, right? That's it. It sounds like. See, your pursuit is objective truth, but your only link there is through experiment, right? But
it's not that intuitive though.
Your experiment doesn't affect the mechanical laws; it affects the observations.
But you don't know the mechanical. No, I'm not gonna whatever. I'm not gonna explain this to you.
Yeah, okay.
Just go read about it. If you don't trust me, go read about it. And if you trust me,
trust me. The randomness is result due to ignorance, not objective reality.
Okay, well, go talk to physicists about that.
Are you making that case though? Do you believe that? Do you believe mechanical laws are objectively
There
ultimately
could
there's some randomness.
there could be some
No,
weird there
sure.
could be some weird underlying theory that explains the randomness.
Which do you believe? What is your preponderance of the evidence belief?
Just based on the evidence, I think it's just random.
So there's some element of randomness somewhere.
Yeah, that it's just naturally.
Not that you can never, human knowledge will always have randomness in its analysis, but objective truth.
Objective reality is itself random.
Okay, that's fine.
That's what the evidence, like, that's the only thing I can gauge from the evidence. I kind of wish it wasn't. Like, I would want for there to be.
Yeah, me too. I have some emotional leanings to that because everybody wants order, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, you might be conflating human ability with actually objective truth there. That's also possible.
I'm not, because it's not like it's. Oh God, it's not as simple as just if we measure this thing. Like, if we measure this thing, things change dramatically than if we don't.
That's your data set. That isn't the
No, but it's
mechanical
not.
law.
It's not that simple. Like,
So the mechanical laws are the same, right?
If we try to measure where the electron is, then it shows up like where we look. If there's like a probability of it being there, but if we don't measure, then it's like the electron is way off somewhere else.
Because we're part of the variables by observing, right?
No,
Isn't that it?
It's no, but it just violates like things. Like, it just violates logic. Quantum logic is not the same thing as propositional logic.
Like, the reason why I know a little bit about this is because it's philosophically interesting in that respect. That, like, your usual sort of like even rigorous logic, sort of you cannot explain it in those terms, like the results of the experiment. So that's why it's so spooky.
But even rigorous logic, over time, it always improves. That's so. Did you agreed with that? Like, it. Did you hear how that Heisenberg uncertainty principle works though? It sounds like, doesn't it sound to you, Adam, that it's a measurement error and not a change?
That seems like such an obvious observation to make.
Like, okay, let's assume this. There's a unifying function that explains everything, including human action and physics, right? Let's assume this exists, right? And the fact is, the fact the observer is still the variable in that. So by observing it, that variable changes, but it doesn't necessarily change the function. It just changes a variable within that function.
You have to take that on faith.
So yeah, but it's no less probable than what you're assuming when you're arguing against me.
Well, what I'm assuming is what's in the evidence. Like,
no.
People who don't know quantum mechanics often ask, well, are you sure it's not just a measurement error? Like, this is a very common critique that people have who didn't study this thing.
I'm sure it is.
And it's like,
I don't have any illusions that
the response is always no, it's not just a measurement error. If it was just a measurement error, it's like it's impossible to just rationalize this as a measurement error, at least as we understand measurement errors.
I mean, it's like such an obvious sort of like thing to bring up that it's for like the first thing the physicists thought about.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we're like suddenly.
Yeah, like Schrodinger. Like, when Schrodinger was making his equation, he wanted to prove that this was just a measurement error. He hated the idea of uncertainty. Einstein hated it. He's like, God does not roll dice with the universe. Like, a lot of them didn't like this, but eventually they just accepted it because it was like, there's nowhere else to go. This is what the evidence indicated.
Is that due to the limitations of physics itself, which is an empirical science, not a pure reasoning discipline? Is it due to that too, man? Are you sure? Are you really sure? Science is ultimately empirical. Are you sure? Are you sure?
Understanding of everything is ultimately empirical.
Yeah, to extent, but more so for sciences. Like it's one. It adds one level of.
There might be some weird underlying, like maybe the electron has like.
It's affected by the observer, though.
No, like, it's not just that it's affected. Like it's affected in that it can like teleport because of how it's affected. Like, that's like maybe there's like a fourth dimension, and the electron somehow travels through that dimension really quickly, which results in this. I don't know, but it would be like very difficult to explain, and we don't have the tools yet. So, right now, like the philosophy of science operates under the assumption that the universe is fundamentally like random and disorder, but in the large, like when mass is very large, you get deterministic behavior because the probability of things not being deterministic is so low. It's like like you want it to be 1 or 0, but it's like very close to 1, so it's effectively 1. Hello?
No, no.
Like,
I was trying to comprehend all that.
like the kind of probability is like if I punch the wall in front of me right now,
It might
there's
go through.
like, yeah, there's a probability that
Yeah, I remember this.
my hand can go through the wall, and like that all of the particles just won't.
But isn't that randomness?
Yeah, but
Not-
it's so
not determinism.
but the probability is so low that it like
Isn't it
it's
analogous
never
to-
going to happen. Yeah.
Is that analogous to randomness rather than determinism?
Yeah.
Like it seems like that's more evidence for determinism than randomness.
Well, on the large mass for
Then that
large.
wasn't a good analogy then.
No, I'm just saying, like the probabilistic, like
It's non-zero.
it still works on the large limit. The
There's
probability
a
is just very
100%
low.
chance it's non-zero. You're almost the problem.
Anyway, I'm gonna, like, I need to go. Like, this has been fun. Good luck, Brian. Is all I'm gonna say.
Nice to meet you, Tenuous.
I like
nice
when they
to
say,
meet you,
I like
Adam.
when they say good luck. That's always taken well.
Well,
by
I mean,
me.
I just think like you should just. There are
I really think I want like a logician or a mathematician, a hard mathematician, like a rigorous mathematician to mediate. So I can call you out on some of your
a
arguments.
rigorous mathematician wouldn't agree with you.
Yes, you would. Yes,
No.
you would.
They wouldn't.
Yes, you would.
You
Yes, you
you
Standards of
like I don't know, like there's definitely flaws in your reasoning, but there's like I don't know what all of them are. What's
you can
absolutely
articulate
flawed,
them.
and this is something Adam points out as well, is your method. Your strategy here is
He's usually referring to my being able to convince people, and my
No, but
my
like-
charisma is very low.
I'm not saying you're definitely wrong because of your method,
Yeah.
but it's like so prone to like error.
yeah.
Error in what way? Me getting everyone pissed at me?
I mean that as well, but just errors and.
Okay, what error were you referring to in the first place? Not that error. So what error were you referring to?
No, I'm just probabilistically,
analysis
right? Just like the chances of any random, sort of like axiomatic argument being correct.
Yeah.
Like historically, most of them are wrong.
Yeah. Like you basically have to.
Jesus
You
Christ.
have
No,
to get
not
it
just
right.
any-
Does that include all of yours?
Yes.
Okay. So yours
I mean
does.
that's true. That's true of everyone.
Your
though.
positions
Like everyone
don't
has
hold
like
any
a.
better. Even a counter position to my position.
I mean, like
doesn't hold
maybe
any
you can
better.
explain it this way.
Alright.
Like everyone at right now we take like democracy and stuff like that. Like we think that's the best system we have. Like we take all that for granted, but we have the sense that we have solved it, right? But literally everyone through history had the same sense about their sort of like assumptions, right? And they were all wrong, obviously, because we cannot all be right. So in that same way, you're probably wrong.
You can present weird ways to show I'm probably wrong. I don't accept that analysis. But Tenuous,
nice to
do you
meet you.
believe,
What?
quickly, what type of democracy do you said before you believe in a democratic system, right?
I don't know. I haven't like fully like my theory isn't like fully developed. All I know, like for like my immediate actions would be to not vote for
Trump.
well, to not vote for like
Capitalist.
taking away government restrictions on how the market works.
Okay.
My vote would be towards limiting the financial system. So
That's the problem.
the restrictions.
Have you ever considered that the regulation is actually the problem?
Yeah.
like the
I
banking.
mean,
But I mean,
you're
it's
aware
been-
it's literally the most regulated industry, right? And it deals with money, which is like a government fiat or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into this
I mean, yeah,
discussion.
it's a separate conversation or whatever. Like, it's unfair to bring
No,
this up.
he just
this
doesn't
round,
want to. He's gonna sign off. So.
Yeah. Goodbye,
Alright,
guys.
Tim,
Have fun.
it's fun. Man, I wish it would progress like that way, kind of. The fuck? What kind of went different there?
I mean, you should probably re-listen and sort of like pay attention to where it sort of like devolved.
Yeah. I'm telling you guys, though, you guys are doing it wrong. But you see my criticisms, right? I was hoping you would like.
No, but I think they say too. Like, basically, you're saying you need a candidate to be the candidate, right? So just
Wait,
because
what?
you're like you need a candidate to beat another candidate, like sort of. I mean,
Yeah,
to
because
explain what I mean.
because of the standard of proof at that point is preponderance of the evidence.
Yeah. So I think they see that, but they don't care.
What? Oh.
Like just because they don't have a better theory doesn't mean that their criticisms are invalid. And I think they just cling to that.
It's not even that. You don't need the standard of their proof wasn't even that. Right? They don't need to have a specific theory. All they need to do is
Like they don't have any alternative.
they don't have to present me the number, right? They just have to prove it's positive. Right? That's all I was asking for. So the specificity I wasn't asking for. Just prove to me it's positive. Did you got that right?
Yeah, but like
I wasn't
again,
asking.
like the
I wasn't
Mike said that he didn't want to do that because he ultimately doesn't like government either.
So I was asking. Yeah, I was talking to Tenuous, I think, at that point. I was asking for the alternative, like when I was asking for alternative, I didn't mean specific, but a general one, right? Just any general case for when government's needed. I really wasn't asking for a specific one. Obviously,
Like I don't remember you asking that. I mean, maybe you intended to ask that.
look later on. When I was talking about disproof, I told them all their standard was to win the debate is prove positive. I remember I kept talking about I was claiming 0, they were proving positive at any point in time. Remember that? That was their standard of proof to win the debate.
That's when the guy said that he didn't want to defend government.
Hugman?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It was more focused toward Tenuous. But I tried to turn it to Hugman just to establish some foundations. Because I wasn't being allowed to. What is your fucking aversion? What is everyone's aversion to me defining meta self?
I mean,
What's wrong with that?
I mean, I think it's not helpful for conversation, and I cannot see how it's relevant specifically to what I thought the debate was.
Should it restrict it to the mere self-interest, maybe? Just because it's more familiar?
That sounds more conducive to like a fruitful debate.
Jeez,
I mean,
it sounds like I'm catering to emotion. That's the problem. I know I know people will watch this and see I'm getting emotional, but it's emotion based on frustration of non-logical structure.
Anyway, I have to hop off as well, but I'm gonna send you in Facebook a paper about it's not a paper. It's like a thing about quantum mechanics and philosophy.
Yeah, send me that. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but it looks interesting.
But it ultimately makes a case for randomness as a fundamental thingy. Is that what? Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.